And good evening and welcome to the September 21st, 2010 meeting of the Glendale City Council. May we have roll call, please?
Council members: Draymond.
Here.
Friedman.
Here.
Quintero. I thought he was here. Weaver.
Here.
Mayor Najarian.
Here.
Back. Okay.
Council member Friedman. Mr. Howard?
Just waiting for
Sign language.
waiting for me to come.
They will be out. Okay, we'll reflect them on the roll when they in. Here they are.
There. Thank you.
Councilmember Friedman, would you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Sure, I invite you to rise and join me in renewing our pledge to the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for the invocation. As we pray this evening, let us join the many members of our Mexican community as we celebrated Mexican Independence Day last week, and our Armenian community for Armenian Independence Day, which is marked today. The importance of these two holidays to our residents tells the story of the diversity of our community and the struggles the people of these nations have endured to come here and remain true to their cultural heritage. But our prayers for peace and comfort and love today we extend to the families of the victims and the injured survivors of the pedestrian accidents which have dominated our headlines and draw so much attention in the last few weeks. We pray that the family of the deceased find answers and peace for their loss, and we pray for those who are in hospital beds or nursing their injuries at home because of the carelessness of the drivers on our roads. Let us pray, and in prayer promise to be more patient, to drive more carefully, to acknowledge that road does not only belong to the person behind the wheel, but to those who walk and who ride bikes, to young and old alike. Let us pray that our community realizes that no phone call, text message, or appointment is more important than the safety of our streets. Amen.
Do we have your report, please?
The agenda for the September 21st, 2010 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on Thursday, September 16, 2010 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. The next item?
Next item is presentation and appointments, and at 3A is the agenda preview for the meetings of September 28, 2010.
Ms. Beers.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, for September 28th, there are no Glendale Housing Authority items or Glendale Redevelopment Agency items. For the Glendale City Council meeting in the evening at 6 p.m., we have a number of consent items, a number of them from the police chief regarding receipt of grants from the United States Department of Justice, Office of Justice Programs, Bureau of Justice Assistance. This is a 2010 appropriations, and we have a number of items under that with the police chief. We do also have another item with the chief of police, and this is the wellness consultant for the police department. Continuing on with the consent items, Director of Public Works, contractual tree trimming program agreement amendment, and the General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is the approval to issue a request for proposal for the Grayson Power Plant Unit Number 3 cooling tower replacement. Under action item, we have City Manager. This is the establishment of a sister city relationship with the City of Gimpo, Korea. Director of Information Services. This is an agreement with UISOL to provide assistance in the development of information technology architecture for Glendale Water and Power Smart Grid. And lastly, we have General Manager of Glendale Water and Power. This is a professional state strategic planning, legislative representation, and advocacy, intergovernmental liaison, and political analysis services. And that completes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Next item, please.
At 3B is a commendation to Glendale Chamber of Commerce in recognition of their 100th anniversary.
Is there someone from the Chamber of Commerce here? There is not. They had all their fun earlier today by
We could take the proclamation and put it in the time capsule, Mr. Mayor.
Hey, that's not
Well, let me read the proclamation. This is in honor of their 100th anniversary. This is a mayor's commendation presented to the Glendale Chamber of Commerce. Congratulations on the occasion of your 100th anniversary, honoring your distinguished leadership and dedication to the residents and businesses in Glendale. Your exemplary commitment to assisting business owners succeed in our community has enhanced the quality of life in Glendale for 100 prosperous years. And Rick Lemo is the president of the Chamber of Commerce this year, and we'll make sure that he gets this. You're kidding about the time capsule, right?
I think it's a great idea.
We'll let them decide what where they'd like to put this plaque. Okay. Thank you. The next item,
Next item is City Council and staff comments.
Mr. Weaver.
Yes, I usually don't say much about events I go to, but we have season tickets to the Glendale Renaissance Orchestra. Made it to one. The second one, our grandson was being born, so didn't make it to that. Last one was last week at the Alex Theater. New West Symphony put on a great show. My wife and I said it's one of the best we've been to in years. Of course, I'm not young, so the music they played from the 40s, 50s, and 60s was just wonderful for me, my wife. Taking a back step a second, about an hour before I went down there, I turned on the TV and the movie South Pacific was playing. So I caught about the last half again. It's the first musical my wife and I saw when I was in the Navy in Hawaii. We went down to Waikiki and saw the premiere of South Pacific. And so I watched Mitzi Gaynor and Rosanna Brazzi in the movie. Went down there, and Lorna Luft, which is Judy Garland's daughter, and sings so much like her mother. I mean, I just kept seeing Judy Garland there. When she got near the end, she said, "A dear friend of mine is down in the audience. I want to introduce you." It was Mitzi Gaynor, the star of South Pacific. Her hair wasn't red anymore. It was kind of nice silver color, but I mean, just within an hour period, watching Mitzi Gaynor in a movie on television and going down and seeing her down there in person. It was great, a bigger crowd than ever, standing ovations, and they have a Christmas show coming up, and if you got nothing else planned, you will enjoy it with the sound system the way it is in there. Now at the Alex, we moved to the back and just had surround sound perfect. They did a great job, so not doing anything much for the Christmas show in December. Thank you.
There ain't nothing like a dame, eh, Mr. Weaver?
Yeah, that was in the movie, yeah.
Referring to a soundtrack from the movie.
Yes, that's right.
So,
I understood.
Mr. Draymond?
Two things. One is, Mr. Zern, may I take you back to not Bally High, but Emerald Isle?
By the way, the CB's room when I was a CB. So.
That's right. There's
Another
another connection, Mr. Weaver. They were CBs. That's right. Anyway, Emerald Isle, and continued reports from the residents up there that it's great to have the signs and all of that, but that they're just being routinely ignored, and that the speeding is it's back the way it was. So it brings me to, or close to the way it was. So it brings me back to a question, which is the timing of bringing back the agendized item dealing with the issue of speeding that was requested. And again, turning to the city attorney on that, what we're allowed to do in terms of if we should desire to increase fines for citations of speeding. I know there's a limit.
There is, and that would be included in the report that Mr. Zern will bring to you, all the options that are available. Essentially, though, just very quickly, we are severely limited by state law. State law controls essentially not only the fines and forfeitures, but also the types of things that we can do, whether it be someone thinks of red light cameras and the like. Those are all permitted by state law. So if it's not permitted by state law, we're not going to be able to, on our own, do something unique and somewhat out of the box unless it's permitted by state law. But we'll provide all the options.
Report.
Yes.
When does that come?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Draymond, we're working with the police department and with Mr. Howard's office, and we anticipated having something back at the end of October.
End of October. Okay. The other thing, thank you very much. The other item, Mr. Mayor, is I would like to ask if we could adjourn the meeting in the memory of Dick Soderlund, who is someone, he and his wife, Lynn, are known to many in the city of Glendale, the residents of the Verdugo Woodlands, and sort of fixtures also in Montrose. Dick passed away this last week. A tough one, I'm sorry. And prematurely, and they were just he was just a terrific human being, wonderful man. The service is this Saturday at Holy Redeemer in Montrose at 11 o'clock, with those so desiring to return to their home on Opeechee afterward. And I don't think I could get through a more detailed talk about him, but I would like to ask if we could adjourn the meeting in Dick Soderlund's memory.
We will do so. Mr. Quintero.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to hear the news. I wasn't aware that he was a wonderful guy, and him and his wife and participated in the Glendale civic life for many, many years. I wanted to congratulate one of our employees, a gentleman by the name of Ken Hitz, and due to his tenacious work, he even included me in his campaign. A company called LegalZoom, I'm sure you've seen the ads on TV, LegalZoom with 300-plus employees, many of whom are IT, information technology type people, an excellent demographic in terms of their employees. They're coming to the city of Glendale. They're going to rent approximately 50,000 square feet, and they're going to be a very welcome addition. The city of Los Angeles was really intent on keeping them. They were located in Hollywood. They were very much intent on keeping them in the city of Los Angeles, but Mr. Hitz would not, he wouldn't take no for an answer, and convinced the CEO and others to come to Glendale, talked about the transportation possibilities, you name it. I was in on one of the meetings, and he was determined to land this company, and he did. But they're going to be a great addition to Glendale.
Thank you. Ms. Friedman.
Thank you. First, I'm also very sorry to hear about Mr. Soderberg. He will leave a big hole in Glendale. He was very, very active in the city and really made a very big contribution. Second, on a completely different note, last night I attended, along with Mayor Najarian and Senator Carol Liu, an event hosted by the Consulate General of the Republic of Armenia in honor of the 19th anniversary of the independence of the Republic of Armenia at Mocha downtown to showcase the Gorky exhibit, which is an amazing art exhibit of a very influential Armenian artist. It's only up, I think, for a few more days or weeks, so if you haven't seen it, it's done? Oh, well, you can buy the book in the gift shop. It was a really amazing exhibit. It was up for about at least 4 months. And what I wanted to say about it, it was a wonderful event last night, but I learned last night that the Glendale community had raised about $160,000 towards bringing this exhibit here. And it's a really amazing gift that the community of Glendale gave to all of Los Angeles by bringing this incredible exhibit downtown LA to Mocha. And I'm very, very proud of this community for their appreciation of the arts and for really, putting their money behind culture and arts. And I think they really did Glendale proud. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then lastly, in case you're wondering where I am for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be gone for the next 2 meetings. I'm following in Mayor Najarian's footsteps and going off to Korea with a different group. Again, there's no city money being used for this. It's a combination of my own money and the group that I'm going with, which is a group that's all about fostering cultural education between different nations and understanding and goodwill between people. They co-sponsor it, and then the participants apply and put up our own money. And we spend half of the days that we're there in the university learning about Korean culture and history. And then I'm going to be going to our sister city of Gosong for the last few days. And given that Glendale has one of the largest populations of Koreans in America, over 20,000 Koreans here, I think it's a wonderful opportunity to get to know more about the culture and history of a large portion of Glendale residents. So I hope to use that to better engage the Korean population and to better represent them. And I will bring back whatever I've learned and let you know when I'm back in a few weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. With regard to the Gorky exhibit, 2 weeks ago, my wife took my two boys. You've heard me talk about them. They're 15 and 12. I think the appropriate term would be kicking and screaming to the museum to see the exhibit. They weren't very thrilled about it, but my wife insisted. And the most amazing thing happened. On their return, just within an hour of seeing the museum, seeing the paintings, my sons were talking about Cubism and Impressionism and the use of color and symbolism. And don't ever underestimate the power of art. I mean, you've seen my two kids. They're very active, and I had no idea that they had an appreciation for art. They got that from their mother, obviously. But it's really amazing how, and it could have been any other exhibit. In this case, it was Gorky, the Armenian artist, but how it can really set young minds thinking in a different direction and giving them an appreciation for different types of art and different themes. So take your kids to museums, even if they kick and scream, is the moral of that story. I'd like to remind everyone that on October 2nd through October 3rd, for a 24-hour period, we are going to be hosting the Glendale Relay for Life. It's going to be held at Shoal Canyon. We have the graphic on the screen. 24 hours straight. All the proceeds go towards the American Cancer Society and their search for a cure to the devastating disease of cancer. We're hoping that in our lifetimes we'll be able to find a cure. It is a lot of fun, besides doing a great helping out with humanity. It's a great chance to see many of our department heads, many of the councilmen will be there. I'll be there for a while as well. It's a camp out, so it's for 24 hours. You pitch your tent in the woodsy enclave of Shoal Canyon up at the ball fields. It's really a lot of fun. There's plenty of food and drink, and the point is, of course, to raise funds for the American Cancer Society. So I'd like to remind everyone, it is maybe 12 days away or 13 days away. Make sure everyone organizes. You can bring a team up there. You can come individually, but it's really a great event and one of the best events that goes on, and one of the most significant events that happen in Glendale. Well, about 2 months ago, my wife asked me, guess who's coming to dinner? And I gave a few lame guesses about who was coming, but then she let me know that, in fact, 100 of our closest friends are coming to dinner this Saturday at my house on the 25th. It is a fundraiser for Glendale Healthy Kids. The chefs for the evening will be the renowned chef, the top chef of the Glendale Fire Department, Captain Trevor Welsh, who is preparing a menu of, let's see, what do they call it? This is Cajun style, with boudin balls, hush puppies, with remoulade sauce. There's going to be a main course of seafood étouffée over toasted rice with spicy black-eyed peas. And for dessert, there's going to be peach bread pudding topped with bourbon sauce and whipped cream. And for drinks, we're going to be having mint juleps, hurricanes, of course, wine and beer. It's a great chance to get out and have dinner at my house under the stars, and we can talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. It is a fundraiser for Glendale Healthy Kids that provides so much help and health care to the young and underprivileged children of the city of Glendale. So if you're interested in tickets, please contact Glendale Healthy Kids. They're on the internet, and they're also in the phone book. And Camille's last name? Levy. Camille Levy will be able to set you up with a ticket. This is more of a question. Do we have a clip on the Army of Pink? I'm not sure if that was ever presented. GTV6, Army of Pink? Probably not.
No.
But I do want to apologize that last...
City clerk is on the phone with the Army of Pink.
Army of
recruiter
Pink.
this very moment.
When
Colonel Pink.
Councilmember Friedman and I went through the list of candidates, essentially this is where you get to look at a short video on the Glendale Adventist website, and you get to vote for one of 5 or 6 candidates, gentlemen in pink. We forgot to mention Larry Zarian, even though we did mention his son. He gave me an earful.
That's because you're running against him.
It still
for
hurts.
The captain of
He
Army of
accused
Pink.
me of, tilting the deck. Our city clerk says he's got...
see it.
Now, I don't want to put mine up. There's one with a collage of all the other candidates. I don't want to run afoul of our TV appearance law.
I think ordinance.
So please go to the Glendale Adventist website, and maybe next meeting we'll have the clip, and it's a good laugh. We've got the police chief, the fire chief, Tony Tartaglia, Dr. Boris Bagdasarian, and the senior and he's going to get mad at me for that, Larry Zarian and his son, Gregory, and myself. A lot of fun.
What happens when they vote?
And every time you vote, let me turn it over to you, because you are
I'm the captain of
you're
the
the
Army.
captain and the chairman of the event.
For every time you vote, and voting is free, and you can vote as many times as you want, for every vote that you cast, Glendale Adventist will donate $1 to Relay for Life, up to $10,000. So it's a really easy way to support the Relay for Life. And if you want to donate money, any of that money that's donated through the Army of Pink will go directly to the cancer services at Glendale Adventist that are offered free to any cancer patient or survivor in Glendale, regardless of when they had their treatment or where. So it's they have a wonderful set of programs that they offer to cancer survivors in the city, and any money that's donated above the voting will go directly towards those programs, which are a yoga class, a physical fitness program, support groups, and now a dance class.
Great. So very good cause. Thank you. If there's no other comments, anyone from staff?
I did.
Mr. Weaver?
Did I tell my colleagues that my wife and I went to Waikiki? Did I say that?
Yes.
You saw the premiere.
Oh, I don't want to get in trouble. I went with my girlfriend. We didn't get married for 5 years later. I don't want to get in trouble if anybody's watching.
Was that another girlfriend, or the
Oh,
one
no,
you eventually
the
married?
same one. Yeah, same one.
Okay, just wanted to
We just
clear
got more serious as we went along.
Okay. Artie, why don't we play it if you've got the compilation? It's rather cute.
I just have to unmute this.
The Glendale Army of Pink
Army of Pink.
is coming together
to fight cancer
in our community.
Hi, my name is Ron DePompa, and I'm the police chief for the city of Glendale.
I'm Dr. Boris Bagdasarian, a cancer specialist in Glendale.
My name is Larry Zarian.
My name is Ara Najarian, and I'm the mayor of the great city of Glendale.
I'm Tony Tartaglia, a community college guy.
I'm Gregory Zarian. Vote for me because real men wear pink.
I'm Harold Scoggins, fire chief of the Glendale Fire Department. We're here to invite your participation in the Army of Pink campaign.
Go to the website, glendaleadventist.com/Army of Pink, and they'll be glad to show you everything that's going on with this campaign.
Together, we can support each other in our fight against this disease.
Go online to glendaleadventist.com/Army of Pink and vote today.
And each vote, the hospital, Glendale Adventist, will donate $1 for each of those votes. And that will go to the Glendale Relay for Life.
Together, we can support each other to fight back this deadly disease. Join the fight against cancer. Every punch counts.
So go online to GlendaleAdventist.com to vote today. There you go. Thank you, Artie, for picking that up so quickly. Mr. Zern.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I just wanted to make the announcement. As part of the process that we're going through to develop our zero waste policy in the city, we're holding a number of workshops over the next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow afternoon and evening, where we'll be engaging the community both in specific waste reduction related issues and in general issues as well. So residents and businesses alike. Tomorrow, our first meeting in the afternoon will focus on restaurant and restaurant waste. And then in the evening, we will talk about waste reuse and special discards going all the way through to the end of the month and early in October. We have a slide up here. I passed out to you copies of our recycling news, which is on our webpage and distributed throughout the community. So we encourage everyone to come out. This is partly an education process and partly an outreach effort to get the public's input so we can include that on our plan and ultimately bring that to fruition soon. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. Any other staff comments? Great. Let's move on to the next item.
Mr. Mayor and Council, next item is consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before a motion is proposed.
Mr. Weaver.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
Is there a second?
Second.
I have no cards. Roll call, please.
Council members Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Carroll? Yes. Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communications, or would be oral communications. This is a period for announcements.
Okay, this is our 3-minute portion of the oral communications segment. The first speaker is Officer Michael Ulrich.
Thank you, Mayor. My name is Officer Michael Ulrich with the Glendale Police Department, the Cops Unit, representing the South Command, and I'm just here to ask or to invite you, the viewing audience, anyone in the public, to our town hall meeting we're going to be having on September 29th at 6:30 p.m. at the Horseman Elementary School Auditorium, which is 501 East Acacia. You need to enter off Mariposa if you're going to go to this event. The chief will be there. Several members from our department will be there to answer questions. We're going to have some members from other community organizations. It's kind of an open forum for people to come in, learn a little bit about the department, and ask some questions if you have some questions in the area. That's about it.
Thank you very much. Again, that's at Horseman, 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, September 29th.
Home of the Bulldogs.
Home of the Bulldogs.
Bulldogs. The Horseman Bulldogs.
Thank you. The next speaker is Colin Bogart.
Mayor Najarian, council members, city staff, good evening. My name is Colin Bogart. I work for the LA County Bicycle Coalition, working here in Glendale on the Safe and Healthy Streets project. And I'm here tonight to make my final request for help with our bicyclist and pedestrian count, the first day of which will be taking place tomorrow, the 22nd, and the second day will be on Saturday, the 25th. I'm happy to announce that at this point we have about 90 volunteers signed up for this effort. We just need a few more people tomorrow evening from 5 to 7 p.m. and some more people on Saturday from 10 to noon. And I want to encourage you or anybody in the public, if you're interested and able, to go to our website, www.labike.org/Glendale, where people can click on a button and it'll take them to a website where they can pick the location and time that works for them. I also wanted to take this opportunity to show off one of the things that we're going to give to all of our volunteers, which we didn't do last year, is we're giving them all a T-shirt. It's a Safe and Healthy Streets T-shirt, and each of you should have one of these shirts on the dais to wear with pride if you'd like. And I also wanted to publicly thank a few organizations or companies in town that donated to support this effort as well, and that would include the Alex Theater, Massage Envy, and Nestle Foods. They all donated items as well to give to our volunteers. So once again, if people are able to help out with this effort, they can go to www.la-bike.org/Glendale, or they can contact me directly, Colin Bogart, at 818-334-9731. Thank you very much.
And you won't have Councilmember Friedman to help you with those counts this year.
I will
Busy
miss it.
schedules.
It was a good time, and like I said last time, there were some perks at the end for the people who participated. I don't know what they're getting this year besides a T-shirt, if anything, but our downtown merchants last year donated coupons, free massages, free food, all kinds of really great stuff.
And they've done so again this year, and we
And it
thank
was
them.
fun. Afterwards, everyone got together at Porto's and got to meet all of the other people participating in the count, and kind of went off on their feet and on their bicycles together into the sunset. So it was a good time.
Thank you
very much.
Leon Mayer?
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, members of the council and staff. My name is Leon Mayer, and I'm here on behalf of the library and the Friends of the Library. And I'm giving you last warning about Bob Mills and the Laugh Makers. His book, he's a 17-year veteran of doing gag writing for Bob Hope, and he's traveled all over the world with Bob Hope, and he'll be here at the library tomorrow at 7 o'clock to talk about everything concerning Bob Hope and his career, and his book, The Laugh Makers, a behind-the-scenes tribute to the incredible gag writers. So if you don't need reservations, it's free. Parking is validated. What more can we offer you? Nothing. Come and you'll enjoy it. There'll even be a little video that Mr. Mills will show you. Now, we have One Book, One Glendale coming up next month, starting October 4th. And for me to start to talk about that and do justice to it would be impossible. There's going to be so many events going on, so many movies, so many lectures, so many get-togethers on the stage. We'll have Denise Hamilton, who is our Glendale resident. She's written a book about what they call the noir, mystery noir in Glendale, in Los Angeles. Pat Morrison will be there for one of the programs. There'll be old movies shown. It'll be a great series of events going on during the month of October. And you come to the library and you can get the programs. I invite everybody to come to the library. In fact, if you come tomorrow night, you can get a Bob Hope library card. In any event, that'll be starting in October. I'll talk about that more as the weeks get closer. And there's a movie this Saturday. Am I right?
Yes.
Would you mention it too, please, at this point?
The movie... Thank you. The movie is called Eret. It's a movie by a German filmmaker whose name escapes me, but it's concerning the Armenian genocide. That's 4 o'clock at the Glendale Central Library.
And the interesting thing about this movie, not that it's in German, there'll be English subtitles, but for those of you who don't know history, Germany and Turkey were kind of allies during the genocide. And this movie is by a German screenwriter. So that should be a very interesting event. And real quick, has anybody gone to see the Stepping Stones players at Hoover High talk and do the play Willy Wonka? If you haven't, there's still Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be your last opportunity to see a great play. So I urge everybody to consider going to that as well. I know this is going to be a busy weekend for a lot of people and for a lot of things, but Willy Wonka, Stepping Stone players. Thank you.
Thank you very much for reminding us. Next speaker is Ruslan Biryakov.
Mr. Mayor and City Councilman, staff, good evening. I'm Ruslan Birukov and I'm the founder of Glendale Philharmonic Orchestra. I'm here to announce that we are starting our season with a performance on November 7th at 5 o'clock. It's Sunday at the First Baptist Church of Glendale. And there are 7 concerts planned. Oh, there is our poster over here. Wonderful. So the program called Carmen because of Carmen's Suite. There's a famous opera by Bizet, Carmen, and Russian composer Shchedrin made a transcription for the orchestra as a ballet. So we will not have ballet. It's frequently performed as a symphony, as an orchestral piece. That will be the main piece of the program. Then there will be cello concerto by Bach and suite by Rossini for strings, and Los Angeles premiere of 4 folk Armenian tunes for duduk with orchestra. So it's on Sunday, November 7th at 5 o'clock. Maestro Mikhail Vetisyan will be our conductor. I would like also to mention that we planned 7 performances for this season. 4 of them are orchestral performances and 3 chamber music with musicians from the orchestra. And second performance will be very interesting with Emo Phillips, who is Glendale resident, comedian doing narration for the Peter and the Wolf. We don't have poster of for January 8th concert yet. Tickets, as usual, the cheapest $15, and we raised the most expensive tickets up to $100 this year. We sell tickets now through Alex Theater, also box office, and Americana brand, and our websites. That's pretty much it. And I would like to invite everyone to come on the performance and join us in this fantastic venue, recently rediscovered in Glendale with phenomenal acoustic, built by an architect who was deaf on both ears. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Ms. Friedman.
And I didn't mention when I was talking about the program last night for Armenian Independence Day at Gorky that the Glendale Philharmonic played there, and they really made Glendale proud. And just terrific. They had the crowd completely entranced.
Well,
great to see you there.
At the end of the performance, unfortunately you had to go, but at the end of the performance we had all the bravis, and orchestra started with Armenian pieces and ended with tangos by Piazzolla and music by Bach. So it was pretty successful performance. Do I still have time? No?
Your time is up, but if you have a closing statement.
Yeah, I have very little thing. We are starting our fundraising efforts, and this year our fundraising will be going under the label Every Penny Counts, and the minimal donation will be $1. And I would like also to thank our mayor who agreed to join us tomorrow at Armenian television. We will be announcing the beginning of our season. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And we feel support of the city, and I just wanted to know it's very important for us and for the members of the orchestra and for everyone who is involved with us. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. Mr. Quintero.
I just want to thank you, Ruslan. You're doing a wonderful job. From the first time you appeared at that podium, you haven't stopped. I'll be there November 7th, and I'll bring some people. Carmen's one of my favorite operas, so I'm willing to take a risk and see your interpretation.
Thank you. One more thing. I'm so sorry. Well, we are releasing a CD. I forgot to say.
Okay. CD is coming. You can come back next week.
Yeah, we will be back next week. Thank you very much. Thanks.
And I don't have any other cards for this portion of oral communications, but I would like to go to Councilmember Draymond, who I forgot to recognize earlier on.
Oh, Mr. Mayor, you forgot to recognize me because I forgot to mention it. Councilmember Friedman and I are co-chairs for this year's Unity Fest. I think this is the ninth year, I believe. It's the 9th annual Glendale Unity Fest. Interestingly, it's on 10/10/10, October the 10th, 2010, Sunday, from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Brand Boulevard, as it has been for the last 2 years. This event includes, aside from a lot of the cultural diversity activities, entertainment, we have a special guest. And I'm going to now turn it to my co-chair, Councilmember Friedman, because it was her idea in the first place.
We have a lot of celebrities in Glendale lurking around, and one who I thought would be a wonderful fit for Unity Fest and who very graciously agreed to be our host this year is Mario Lopez. So Mario is scheduled to be at Unity Fest and to be our host. And for those of you under the age of 35, you all, I'm sure, know who he is. He is now the host of Extra. And he was originally on Saved by the Bell. That's where he made his fame and fortune. So that's very exciting. And in addition, for the first time this year, we're going to have 3 of the famous gourmet food trucks at Unity Fest, all with an international, kind of diversity fusion type theme. So that'll be a lot of fun. So I hope to see everyone there.
You'll be hearing more about it.
Thank you.
And Laura, I'm more than twice his age, and I know who he is.
Okay, great. And while I have the mic, I'm going to, at the mayor's prodding, indulge myself for a moment and introduce my sister Wendy, who just walked in and arrived from Brooklyn, New York. Hi, Wendy.
Stand up, please.
Welcome. She's never been here while I've been. Thank you very much.
Okay, nice to have you visiting. Okay, I think that covers all the comments. Let's move to the next item, please.
Next item on the agenda, under hearings, 9A is Director of Community Planning regarding appeal of Design Review Board Case Number 1, PDR 2009-052A, located at 1550 El Miradero Avenue. At 9A1 is motion sustaining the Design Review Board's decision to approve the Design Review Board application. At 9A2 is a motion to overturn, reverse the Design Review Board's decision, and deny the Design Review Board application.
Thank you. And let's go to, who are we going to go to? Tim Foy.
The case tonight is an appeal of a Design Review Board decision, and I'd like to turn it over to the case planner, Gevorg Nazarian.
Okay, let me open the public hearing. This is a public hearing, and what I would like to do after we get the staff report is to give the appellants and the respondent each 15-minute time period in which to address the issues and to make their case before the council.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. As Mr. Foy mentioned, this is an appeal of a Design Review Board approval to do a 956 square foot addition to an existing 1,725 square foot one-story single-family house located at 1550 El Miradero Avenue. Hey, already is not working.
It's not working. Oh, you have it.
Okay, thank you. I'll just leave it. Thank you. The site is located at the south corner of 3 streets coming to intersect El Miradero Avenue, Grandview Avenue, and Mountain Street. The site is highlighted in blue here. It is a triangular-shaped lot. As you can see, it is a unique site, and there are currently hedges running along Grandview Avenue. Try to show it with my mouse here. There are hedges running along this property line, and some of which are alleged to be outside of the private property, meaning in the public right-of-way. There's also a GWP electrical service easement along the interior property line right here, and this small portion here, this small portion right here, a 5-foot easement. By the this has been confirmed by the service planner, electrical service planner at the Glendale Water and Power. There also may be a private easement, 10-foot along Grandview Avenue, and their city has no party in this easement, and council should not consider this easement.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, what you just said?
That private easement, that was what I hear, which was brought to me very recently, is a 10-foot private easement, and the city has no part in this easement and does not enforce this easement.
Private easement held by who?
Excuse me?
Private easement held by
Yes.
who?
I believe it was put in when this subdivision was done in the 20s, and then in 1939 it was amended.
Subdivision was 1920.
I believe the tract was created in 1920s.
So
26,
I
I
was
think.
curious what kind of an easement was granted in 1920 before we really even did those kind of things, and what purpose it serves today. Seems like it's obsolete, especially since it runs underneath the garage of the existing dwelling.
Are you talking about the Glendale Water and Power easement or the?
Lateral one. Are you speaking on that one, or are you speaking on?
There's
Grandview?
two. There's two. There's one by Glendale Water and Power.
Right.
That's electrical service easement, 5 foot. There's also, it's been brought forth that there's a 10-foot easement along Grandview.
Oh, no, I'm not talking.
That city has
I'm
no
talking at the back of their lot. There's an easement there too.
Okay. I didn't.
Sorry, I got confused.
All right.
I was-
It's fine. This is basically the site. As you can see, the proposed construction is right in this empty area right here. I'll have a better photo I'll have something that will show where the construction is being proposed. This is also actually a picture of the hedge taken from Grandview Avenue. I'll give you a quick brief description of the project proposal. It is, as I mentioned, an addition of 956 square foot. It is to match the existing house in style, mass and scale, and details and materials. It is proposed to be 6 feet from the property line along Grandview Avenue, and it is proposed to be 4 feet along the interior property lines, which will have to be put back to 5 feet after having found out from Glendale Water and Power that there's a 5-foot easement. So the building will have to be cut or moved by a foot to provide the easement for Glendale Water and Power.
Because of the easement?
Excuse me?
Is it the easement or the setback?
That is an easement by Glendale Water and Power. Again.
Okay, and that's one I didn't have time today to find out why we have an easement going across one lot from one street to another on a piece of property that's very, the one that was subdivided is very old. What's it serving?
I would not be able to comment on that, honestly.
And I'd like staff to look at that
Definitely.
later and
Take a
find
note
out
of
if
that.
it can be abandoned.
Okay. This is basically an same aerial zoomed in showing the proposed addition, and that green line indicates the 1-foot cut. And the elevation drawings that were prepared by the architect showing this right here is the addition being proposed, and it would be this looking at it from south and north, and you can actually see it from El Meredero. The building is lower, the ridge line is lower than the existing, and a regular height person standing there at an eye level will not be able to see it. It is not anticipated to be seen. As you can see, that's a photo from El Meredero. And this chart right here, I just put this for one purpose only, to show that the subject property is approximately 50% larger than the average in the immediate neighborhood, and the proposed addition or the proposed house size is only about 20% larger than the average in the immediate neighborhood, hence resulting in a much lower FAR of 0.21 versus 0.27 in the neighborhood. The Design Review Board did look at this project on July 8 of 2010 and approved it with 5 conditions. These are the first 4, which have to do with details and architectural elements, to provide vents in the gables, to soften the windows, to reproportion the 2 windows facing Grandview, and to make sure that the roof tiles are matching the existing. The 5th condition, which I would like to talk about a little more, is this condition was added by the board simply because a neighbor had raised a concern at the meeting that the existing hedges, that portions of are in the public right of way. What if they are removed? We'll end up looking at the building. The building will be more visible. The Design Review Board, even though they didn't think a hedge is necessary to hide this building, it is good as it stands. No hedge is necessary to hide it, but if it is removed in the future, homeowners shall landscape it appropriately. Doesn't have to be a hedge, by the way. That's what Design Review Board made clear for us. And I'll just quickly go over the 4 bases of the appeal that was included in the original notice of appeal. One, appellant is arguing regarding the property frontage, basically stating that mountain is not and cannot be the front of the property, it should be Grandview. Zoning planning staff has done extensive research on this, and it's been determined that the property has frontage on Mountain Street based on the lot configuration, as you can see, or we did see, actually you can see it on this map as well in this aerial. The physical frontage as well as the history of the property. There have been 3 building permits issued in the past, starting with the original construction, later building permit for a wall, as well as addition to the house back in the recent past in 2002 that allowed construction on Grandview side, meaning if this in fact was the front of the property, everything had to be at least 25 feet away from property line. Currently they're 15 feet. The wall is closer than 15 feet to that property line. So either they were issued in error or they would have to be at 25 feet, and staff believes the frontage is in fact Mountain. And the last point I want to make on that is in 1966...
Can you speak a little bit closer to the microphone?
I apologize. In 1966, a variance was granted which was never pursued. The language read that addition to the back of the property above the garage, right here, which was closer in the setback and required the setback variance. The language read facing the rear of the property, or the rear property line, which would be this property line, that would only lead us to believe that Mountain would be the front. The portion facing Mountain would be the front. These are the 4 factors that played role in our decision-making process or determining that Mountain is in fact the frontage of this property. The second point brought forward by the appellant has to do with the hedges that are in the public right-of-way. And basically, it is being argued that those hedges that are within public right-of-way should not be considered a screening tool, and I think I already went over this. The RB never looked at this as a screening tool. They're just there for now. And the owner should not be allowed to maintain these hedges because they're in the public right-of-way. And staff's response to that is the RB has looked at this, has added a condition, and if in the future these are taken down, it should be properly landscaped, no hedges necessary to hide the building. And even when it comes to maintaining the hedges, that is a separate issue that could be resolved with the Public Works Department. That is the second one. I'll go to the third and fourth, the last 2 bases of appeal. Street compatibility as it pertains to the setbacks. Appellant argues that the buildings in general facing Grandview Avenue are set back further, and this should also be to be consistent with the overall streetscape. Most of the buildings on Grandview Avenue are 2 stories. This is only 1 story, and the provided 6 foot along with the existing 15-foot landscape strip along that stretch, which would be right here, provides approximately 21-foot separation from the street, the curb to the structure. And staff believes this is sufficient enough to provide that setback. I would like to make one clarification and apologize for the mistake that is in the staff report. It states that the proposed addition is not going to be any closer to the street than this garage. In fact, that is not correct, and I would like to apologize and ask you to not consider that statement in the staff report. It was measured wrongfully. And lastly, the overall height of the proposed addition. Appellant argues that the height should be lowered and follow the existing grade, or at least be lowered in ridge lines. This was reviewed by the design studio staff members, and it was determined that it would actually not be great for the design that they're proposing, and it would not. Let me find what actually I have from them. It will be a compromise to the existing design, to the proposed design, in fact. And the way it is designed today, having the hip roofs facing Grandview is the best way, and lowering it, you would have 3 staggered masses that are too small to be staggering like that in that way. So design studio, along with planning staff, agrees with design review board and the proposal, and thinks this probably looks better as far as design goes. And if the council is inclined to add a condition on that, it is recommended to lower just the last southern portion only and not step it down to have 3 points. And staff recommends sustaining the Design Review Board decision of the approval for this project. There's a motion attached. However, if the council feels inclined to overturn it, there's also a motion attached with the staff report to overturn the decision. That is the conclusion of my presentation. I'm available for questions.
Questions?
I have a question. How many frontages does this property have, according to staff?
3.
3 frontages.
Correct.
So everything that's not that side facing their house is frontage?
Yes.
So does that mean then that they have to meet the setback for those 3 frontages?
Correct. There is setbacks for interior property lines and also street front property lines. In this case, building should be 25 feet at least from Mountain Street, 6 feet from Grandview, and 6 feet from El Miradero, technically speaking. But because the house is facing El Miradero and there's a prevailing setback there as a house frontage, obviously they're not proposing any addition there either. It would have been looked at differently, but it would have been 6 feet on El Miradero and Grandview and 25 from Mountain.
So in other words, it's staff's contention that the addition is still within keeping of the required setback?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I did confirm with the city attorney that this is a de novo hearing by statute. The burden of proof is on the appellant. The appellant in this matter is Mr. Vartanians. So I'm going to give Mr. Vartanians a 15-minute time period to present your case to us, and then I will go to the respondents and give them an equal time, and then I'll go through to the other speakers who requested to speak. You?
You have 15 minutes on this?
You'll have 15 minutes. Yes.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor Najarian, honorable council members, staff, and the viewing audience. My name is Vartanians. I live across the street from the proposed addition at 1550 El Miradero Avenue. We are opposing to this development because it's not in keeping with what's the development pattern of in the general neighborhood, specifically with this prominent corner at the entrance to the Brand Park. If you would go to visual, if you would go to our second slide. These are the reasons behind our appeal. Okay. Yeah, the Community Planning Department has made the contention that there are 4 reasons behind their determination that Mountain Street is the frontage of the property. And with all due respect to the Planning Department, I think their argument is just because it's there, it's legal, and it met the code. That's the only argument they have on this. And if I'm granted the time to argue each point, and the planning staff are here, I'll be more than happy to go one by one and argue each case. Next slide, please. June of last year, there was a proposal on this specific property for a 2-story addition, basically a detached house with a breezeway that would connect to the existing house. And there were some communications with the city staff at that point, and the determination at that time was that Grandview is the frontage, and there was an error made at the time when the original property was built. That was just last year, on this very specific parcel. There is a covenant. We spoke about the easement. There is also a covenant that was created at the time of recordation of the map. That covenant basically was a guideline as how the properties within El Miradero tract would be developed. It set setback requirements, building valuation requirements, and those setback requirements ran on the properties, and they still reflect on the title report of the property, and that title is reflected on the title report of the ownership of as at present, and that, I think that should have been brought up at the time of design review board because it clearly shows in the intent of development on that parcel to be compatible with the rest of the community. The existing garage of the property to the south is distant about 15 feet from Grandview Avenue, and that's the correction that Mr. Georg Nazarian made. It's not 6 feet, 15 feet. So if you allow that corner to be 6 feet, it would be the closest point, any point on Grandview Avenue. You know, this addition is treating Grandview Avenue as an alley. Grandview Avenue is not an alley, and I'm here to protect the grace and elegance of that neighborhood and that intersection. The house immediately to the south is about 19-foot distance from Grandview Avenue. So it gives you some kind of a comparison. Go to slide number 4, please. Next slide, please. This is the original building permit application on the lot, the initial one. All you see on that is the frontage on Grandview, which is the dimension shown at 105. It shows a setback. It actually calls out the setback from Grandview Avenue. That's the only planning, zoning terminology at that time. That was pretty much the only thing that mattered. Mountain Street is not even shown on the map. There's a 25-foot requirement that is shown on the plan that shows the intent of the original covenants on the property to show that this building is in line with the rest of the homes that are built on El Mirador Avenue. We can go to the next slide. Slide number 6. I'm sorry, number 5. It's pretty much the same thing. Shows this, and it just kind of gives you a relationship between the setbacks of what the developer is proposing and what's out there. The closest point of the existing house to Grandview is 12 feet at this point. They want to cut it down to half. And as is right now, I live across the street from it, it's imposing. It's high and it's imposing. The addition is going to be further to the south, but as the street drops, and you're going to see the ridge line it's going to be even more pronounced. Next, please, number 6. That's a picture of me without a suit. I'm about 6 feet tall. You can see the height of that hedge. I didn't feel like I'm standing next to a shrub. It's definitely a tree. You let it grow. If you allow it to grow, it will be more than 20 feet in height. There are trees of similar nature in the neighborhood. They're cutting it as a hedge, and they have put private property into use. There are about 3 feet of private property public property is being put to use as a private for private use. And there's actually a fence that runs behind it. You can go back to the next slide, please. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah, the original tract was recorded in 1926. There was a declaration of covenant and restriction that was recorded in 1926 and still runs with the land. And according to that, we had 20 feet. The requirement was 20 feet from Grandview, 20 feet from El Miradero. There was no requirements on Mountain Street because the property doesn't have frontage on Mountain. Ganges were the developers of this original house. They went back to the association, to the title company that wrote the covenants on this. They asked for a permission to get as close as 10 feet to the property. And there was an architectural committee at that time that reviewed all the homes that were built in that tract. Even though they had approvals to get back to 10 feet, it was never built at 10 feet. There was a reason behind it, because it was too close. It was probably knocked down by either architectural committee or the owner itself realized it's too close and they held it back. So this developer has had they have had a bite in the apple at one time. They were just inching away, coming closer to Grandview Avenue, and that's I'm objecting to that. If you go to slide number 10, the line in green, that shows the frontage of the lot. And you can see up above Mountain Street is with a 60-foot right-of-way. That's good 25, 30 feet away from the property line. This is a typical corner lot, having a corner radius. Corner radius does not play into setbacks consideration. It's very clear. It's extremely clear. Otherwise, the properties shown on the other corner, highlighted in orange, the setback on those would be 6 feet from, let's say, this particular parcel. That part, in orange, the setbacks on that property would have been 6 feet on each side, similar to the lot 28, and opposite to that corner. It's got a corner radius. Corner radius is not that lot there and this lot here. The frontage for this lot is here. You take the narrowest width, not the corner radius, and that sets your frontage, and the setback is measured from there. I mean, this is common practice in Glendale. If you would go to slide number 11. This is directly from figure D8 from the zoning code. This shows a typical corner lot. It defines the frontage, and it includes the corner roundoff. The corner roundoff, what you take the shortest line, and that becomes your frontage. And you measure 25 feet, whatever the frontage is from there, and the other side becomes your setback, your side. And if you take the El Mirador lot, the shortest lot line is Grandview, and therefore it is the front setback. Now, things have happened in the past, errors have been made, but you cannot perpetuate errors. And that's why I'm here. They require a variance. This is a legal but non-conforming house on a property. Now, if you go to slide number 12, I have shown 3 lines on the, this thing is not, okay. There are 3 lines. This is the existing house shown in boundaries in green, and this is the existing garage. You take a line, and you draw through it, and you see how this addition encroaches upon it. You take a line maintaining that corner and run it, and you see again, there's an encroachment. And you take the 10-foot that's on a covenant, and it's still an encroachment. I mean, it's so obvious that this thing is not going to look good. The land drops at about 10%. To keep the ridgeline at that level, you will definitely see it from the street. If you go to the next pose, what I've done, I've taken the 10-foot line and I've shown you the impact of that. If they were to continue that line, the impact of that development on the property. This is a huge game room, an extremely large game room, a storage, bedroom, utility room, bathrooms. This is a 4-foot connection to the main house. The addition is not an integral portion of the house. You basically live in a separate house. Now, going back to the number 14, please. This is what they're proposing here. And by the way, this is the ridgeline of the garage. The addition is much higher. So the correct comment from Mr. Georgian is not correct. You see the drop on this elevation, on the front elevation. You see how things are dropping. The garage drops, and that's the ridgeline in the back of this house. You may not see it if you're standing in the street, but the ridgeline is higher. So there are things that could be done, similar to what's happening here. I mean, there is nothing you can do to the roof line of this building to make it incompatible with what's out there. I mean, there are so many broken ridgelines and an elevation on this. There's nothing you can do to interrupt it. So what I'm suggesting is drop this, move this thing closer to it, and there will be a little compromise on the square footage, but it would be for the benefit of the neighborhood. This thing only benefits this lot. It disregards all the property owners on Grandview Avenue. It doesn't help anybody. Let's go to the next slide. And again, this is the frontage of the property shown in green. The lines in blue are interior lots. Next slides, please. This is a wall that was built illegally. It doesn't comply with the code. The covenants on the permit that was issued for this was for a 30-foot wall. This is more than 50 feet in length. The covenants on this property prohibited construction of any wall outside of the building line. If you go on El Mirador Avenue, that's the theme. That's how things are built. Next slide, please. And this basically shows, this is based on the application, the length of the wall is shown as to be 50 feet, and the permit application for this wall was for 30 feet. Now, if you go back to the next slide, please, 18. Now, this is the argument that they're saying. They say, okay, on a zoning application, this was considered the rear lot, and therefore, this little curb becomes the front. Now, you have this entire green line. If the red line is the back, the blue lines become the side, and the green one becomes the front. It's very clear. The other question is, the application for a variance was to build a room on top of the garage. If this area was available for development at that time, why wasn't it built back in 1966 when application for a variance was made? The reason was it was not permitted. That's why they had to get a variance. I mean, would have been much simpler for any owner to build even a two-story house on this because there was not a design review board, and the development was much simpler. But at some point, the staff, the City of Glendale, did not permit them to get that close to Glendale, and there's some value to that. Go next slide, please. Thank you. This is a lot having frontage on 3rd Street. Glenview, Elliott, and Highland. This is the frontage. And yes, for this particular property, this is the front, and those are the sides. Not for the property under consideration. And we go back to this thing again. I mean, you can see, I mean, this is the building that I built. I live across the street from. The requirement for setback for my lot is 25. I have an average of over 45, 50-foot setback. So I'm not asking this owner to do something that I didn't practice myself. I mean, you can see, they're building something here, an addition. They're creating a U shape, moving the thing forward so they'll have an interior courtyard. They're channeling all the noise and thing they're making right into this property's backyard. So, and to go to our last slide, please, 22. This is what I envision that area. Build a wall 6 feet from property line, do your own landscaping, and do whatever. It'll give them their privacy. You'll get will open up the intersection, and it will be nice. Right now, people are pushed into the street. Pedestrians are pushed into the street because there is not sufficient room. And there was a discussion about the 15-foot parkway. The City of Glendale general plan calls out for Grandview to have a 40-foot curb-to-curb distance. Right now we have a 28-foot distance. That street at one point it will be widened. And if that happens, you have less than a 10-foot parkway. So I'm just following with what the general plan of the City of Glendale calls out. So again, I can stand here and, you know, the planning department is arguing case, history, but I like to go to codes. Specifically, the present city codes and the requirements that are placed on the property.
Your microphone.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Vartanian? Ms. Friedman.
I have a few questions. First, given that a lot of your argument revolves around the setbacks, would you not be objecting if their proposal was to do a second-floor addition?
I'm sorry? Absolutely not. I mean, they could. This is a 12,960 square foot property. They're entitled to build 3,200 square foot house. If they were to, I mean, you have to have a property the addition has to be integral to the house. This is a second wing. All you have to do is close that little wall and you have a duplex. I mean, I have absolutely no problem if they would add a second floor as long as it's coherent to the original house and it's set back sufficiently from Grandview Avenue. Absolutely not.
And let me ask you this, just because I'm trying to understand your argument. You also made a few mentions to being able to see what you referred to as the ridgeline of the house. So is it your contention that this house or this addition should not be visible from any public right-of-way?
No. No, absolutely not.
So what was the point about the ridgeline
point
of the
is,
house?
I mean, this is a common design review process. I mean, and we can go back to, if you may go back to the architectural rendering of the, let's see, the slide number. I'm sorry, I had an index here.
There.
The elevation drawings, absolutely. If you look at this is the front elevation. This is the entrance. There's a drop here. There's another drop at the garage level. I mean, you can see in the front the drops. The same thing can be carried out through here. You see, I have here a ridge drop. You could introduce a drop here, another here. And from what I hear from planning department, they're saying, okay, don't do it here, come down here and drop it here. So, and there is a 1.5 foot of drop in the floor elevation. You're starting with a raised foundation at the main house, and you're stepping it down to this level. So there is really no reason. I mean, first of all, you're seeing this in a straight line for a ridge. And this point here, right now, if you stand on Grandview Avenue, this is imposing. That's 12 feet away from Grandview Avenue. You bring this point 6 feet, and it will further impose. The building will impose on the neighbors. Now, This would be my recommendation, to drop it here at one point and move the building further back. And again, absolutely not. There are a lot of properly designed homes with sufficient setbacks, sufficient landscaping that enhances the neighborhood. This particular project will not. I'm sorry to say that. I don't think this is a happy facade. I think it can be improved, and that's why I'm here.
Mr. Draymond, then Mr. Weaver.
Just a question. Mr. Vartanians, you're at what address?
I'm sorry?
You live at what address?
1754, immediately across the street from.
Grandview?
Yes.
So, I don't know if you can see from there. That's you?
Yes.
Okay. And the subject property is 1550 El Miradero, right?
Yes.
That's that house?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for now.
Mr. Weaver?
Martin, you did a magnificent job on the flyover bridge, and you're going to get recognized for that next week. As an engineer to engineer, I look at this, I've been out there and walked it, whatever. I'm trying to figure out why you really did so much work and get involved to come here tonight on this appeal. What's the real reason? Because you cannot see it. Why did you go pull out all the plans, make all the measurements? You spent an awful lot of time to try to say that this is wrong.
Yes.
Even after design review approved it, staff approved it, but you feel compelled. And what is the real reason you want this denied?
Mr. Council Member Weaver, the reason I'm here is because I'm going to be looking at this, and I didn't want this. I don't want this project to go under the radar. For council members at this level, I'm bringing this to your attention. You're ultimately the final judge of what happens to this development, and whatever your decision is, I'll abide by it. I have no problems with it. But the reason I'm saying that, the reason I'm bringing this one up, is because of the potential. Even at 1966, when there was a zoning variance on this, when they were adding just a room, one of the conditions was to place a restriction on the development to prohibit it from becoming a rental. That was in 1966.
No, I'm trying to put an addition on my house, and it's not going to be a rental.
Okay.
It's going to be for kids and family that come in.
Right.
But even on your own property, you raise the elevation of your pad 3 to 4 feet, leveling it off, and then you have one of the highest houses there. Beautiful, but it's high. You can look right over. You're not going to see it unless you're trying to look down into the yard.
Council Member Weaver, with all due respect, the reason I set my property back 50 feet because I recognized it would be, it's a larger home, but it meets all the code requirements.
Undoubtedly. You know the code as well as I do.
Right.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm just trying to figure out why you object. Because you're away and you're up higher.
Because, when there is a determination from a director from planning department, when it comes down to the reasons, and when the reasons are not supported by code, they're arbitrary, speculative, it needs to be brought up to someone.
But design review and staff has heard all your comments.
I understand that.
And dismissed them.
I understand that, and that's why I'm here. Okay. I'm just bringing out the code to your attention, and I'm arguing with code in the background.
You disagree with the staff?
Absolutely, and I'll be willing to go line by line to have full determination, and we can have a healthy conversation as what their concerns, how they made their determination, and argue and have a.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, let's move on to the respondents. The Wharton-Bees. Is there someone who would like to be the main speaker? I have a card from Christina, from Bob, from Stephen. Oh, I can't give each of you 15 minutes.
15 total.
You can divide the 15 minutes in any manner you'd like.
5
total for your side, and then I'll take the unaffiliated speakers afterwards.
Good evening, council members and mayor. I'm going to begin by setting the scenario because...
And for the record, your name is?
Oh, I'm sorry, Christina Whartonby. I live at 1550 El Miradero, and the reason we want to build this is exactly like Councilmember Weaver said. My parents live in Michigan, and we have no place for them to stay with us, no physical bedroom for them to stay with us when they come out. And because the Michigan winters are long, my dad's almost 75, we really would like to have the extra space. And we actually bought the house because of the property, the way it was laid out, there was room to build. And that's, when we bought the house over 10 years ago, we were planning to build. I don't understand, and again, Councilmember Weaver hit the nail on the head, why not just Mr. Vartanian, but also Rubik Ovanesian are absolutely obsessed, and I'm not using that term loosely, they are obsessed with our small project. What I'd like to let you all know is a few years ago, I believe it was probably like 5 years ago, Mr. Vartanian came to us with drawing a presentation of what he planned to do to his house. He was going to knock it down and build a 2-story, very large home. We looked at it. We'd seen him just in passing. We didn't really know him as a neighbor. But he came to us, and we thought it was very kind that he presented it to us. We looked at it. We said, it looks great. Good for you. We signed off on it. For 3 years, at least 3 years, we put up with the construction, the noise, everything to do with the long process of him building this, and never once did we call him to complain. We never called the city. To this day, actually, if he spent a little of the time that he spent on this project, he could probably have finished landscaping his own front yard, which I'd like to, I've got some copies here of, for each. Oh, Stephen, you're supposed to speak quick, please. So given that we were kind and considerate, I thought, to let him do whatever he wanted. We just basically minded our own business. He, since then, has just, like I said, been obsessed with our project. Rubik Ovanesian and Mr. Vartanian came over to our side of the property to meet with us the night before the Design Review Board meeting, and it turned into a nightmare yelling match with Rubik yelling things at us, and we actually left. We said, this meeting is over, and we went inside. He said things like, I'm going to make this corner a nightmare, so you guys move. We've done nothing to this man. We've done nothing to Mr. Vartanian, except, like I said, be nice. I got a temporary restraining order against him because of the threat that he made to me. Mr. Vartanian went to the court hearing to back up Mr. Ovanesian. They actually fabricated so many things, said that I had never said. It was shocking, to say the least. The police had recommended that I get a restraining order, which is why I did that. After the meeting that we cut short, Mr. Vartanian came to our front door and actually apologized for Mr. Ovanesian's behavior. And I thought, great. Came in, we invited him in, and we talked for about half an hour with our architect, Franco Naravian, my husband, me, and Mr. Vartanian. At that time, we said, please, can you just show us the courtesy that we showed you? Please sign off on our project. It's a 1-story. We have changed from a 2-story. When we look out our kitchen window, we see his house, which we never saw before because he went from a 1-story to a 2-story. So what he's saying is extremely hypocritical. He said to us that night, he shook our hand and said, I won't sign off for you, but I will not come to the DRB meeting and I will not oppose you. The next day, we were shocked when he came into the meeting, and not only did he show up at the meeting, but he opposed it. After he opposed it, he filed an appeal. The man cannot be trusted. He has done this several times where he said something and then not followed through with it. When I asked him at one point, why are you doing this? Why do you care? We're doing everything according to the city's rules and regulations. One of the things that he said to me was, well, that woman, Vilia, I'm going to slaughter her name, Zematatus, gave me a hard time with my paint color. And I said, so you're taking it out on us? And he did not deny it. I don't know what reality these men live in, but it's not the one that I live in. We need to share the time, so I don't want to take up all the time. But all the things that Mr. Vartanian presented, saying that people are being pushed off the sidewalk, this is another huge item. Rubik Ovanesian, you have actually the petition in your forms there, wants to rip out our hedges to put in a sidewalk. Another question, why? Why all of a sudden do we need sidewalks right there? You've got a letter from a lady that lives down the street from us, has lived there for 59 years. She said those hedges have been there for 59 years. Our back gate we didn't move in and try to, build on city property or plant on city property. The fact that this man will look at you and say, he showed you the picture, that's not a hedge, those are trees. Need I say anything else? A 5-year-old could tell you that that is a hedge. I'm going to give my husband some time because I know he has a lot. I could be up here for another half an hour, but thank you very much for your time.
And, sir, your name is?
Hi, my name is Bob Whartonby. Christina and I
appreciate everything your wife said, but personally speaking, I'd like to hear more about your project itself and its merits and why it's a good project for the site.
The reason the site, I don't have pictures with me or anything, but you know where the location of the construction is. The reason it is there is, number one, my neighbor immediately to the south that shares the property line, who has signed off on the project, gave us their blessing, they have a kitchen window, and the only view of the mountains from their house is that kitchen window. So we placed the addition in the lowest part of the lot. Originally it was, we started with a 2-story addition with a pool in the courtyard. There was objection from a couple of neighbors that are here tonight, and that went to a single-story addition, which created a larger footprint, which took up a lot of the courtyard space, which then made it so we could not build a pool. So we're giving up a second-floor addition and our swimming pool. We have a small courtyard there that allows us some privacy because our lot is on 3 different streets. In 1966, when the variance was granted to the Wittens, I believe were the owners at the time, we don't know why they were building the room above the garage. It could have been a workshop annex for Mr. Witten there. It doesn't say anything about you can't build on the back corner of this lot. They ended up not building the addition anyway. In that variance application that was granted to them, there is an address listed, 1550 El Miradero, 1600 West Mountain Street, and 1755 Grandview. If our property does not front Mountain Street, why would we have an address on that street? I just don't understand. That is the narrowest part of the lot. When I originally went in to get my kitchen addition approved from planning, they said, no, you cannot build that close to Grandview. And I said, well, why? Because that's the front of your lot. The initial looking at that appeared to them that that was the front of the lot. And then they went back into the offices and came out and said, you know what, we made a mistake. This is not the front of your lot. You're welcome to build there because the front of your lot is mountain. At that time, that's when we did that addition. There's been mention of an easement here tonight that I believe has been mentioned incorrectly. The easement, I've looked at the records in the county registrars, opened the book or looked at the film. The easement for the utility, that 5-foot easement, is the 29.31-foot section of property that is a continuation of the power poles. That is where the easement is. It doesn't say anything about a 103-foot property line that divides my property from my neighbor to the south. Okay, that's a utility easement, and we're totally fine with that. We are fine with that. There's been something brought up about a 10-foot easement from Grandview. Whatever benefits Mr. Vartanian is what he brings up. He says there's a 10-foot easement, but then he says build a wall 6 feet from the property line. So he's not being clear with everything here. He did offer a few weeks back, if we built a 6-foot wall on the 6-foot setback and then built our building behind that, he'd drop the appeal. So if he's so hell-bent on getting us to push our property back, why would we build a wall on the 6-foot setback that has been allowed by the city? We have only followed the rules of the city. 6-foot street side setback. It's a 4-foot interior setback, and originally we had a design that was 5 feet from the 29.31 foot property line. We had a 5-foot setback there. We can go back to that. That's not a problem. So we'd just like to continue with the project and get it done, and hopefully we won't have any more objections from the neighbor, because we really can't understand why he's objecting. His neighbor immediately to the south, Mr. Weaver mentioned, Councilmember Weaver mentioned that he raised his pad. The neighbor to the south, I don't believe, had been let know, or let known about that. He told me he originally saw this big tall wall go up, and he's like, great, I'm going to be separated, we'll have our privacy. And then all this fill dirt came in, and Mr. Vartanian is looking down in their backyard. The neighbor to the north of Mr. Vartanian has tried several times to just say hi to the Vartanians with no response. She's like, they're not even a neighbor to me because they don't respond to me. The neighbor behind, when he was doing his construction, told me that he had just built a wood wall. He has a pool there, so he put a little wood wall on top of a block wall. 2 years previous to that, Mr. Vartanian said, this wall looks shabby, it needs to come down, get rebuilt. And the neighbor said, well, if you want to change it and you want to pay for it, go for it. And he also said, the block wall behind here, it's not good enough for me, it's leaning. And then my neighbor behind him said, well, it's been there for 80 years, it hasn't fallen down, I'm not going to pay for it. If you'd like to do it, go ahead if you want to improve it. He never did any improvements on that stuff. We're just trying to build a place for my in-laws, or anyone who comes to visit us for that matter, to have a comfortable place to stay. When my kids were young, they could stay in the same room. I've got a son and a daughter. They have separate rooms now. We're not going to have them staying in the same room, so we need a little more space. The game room is a specific dimension. I'm an audio engineer, and I want to put a home theater in there, and it develops a low frequency, and that's the reason that room is the length of that. So it's not just making a huge room, it's making a minimum length room of 21 feet to accommodate acoustics. And the storage is just, there's no storage in these houses. All the closets are very small. We just like to have a room where we could keep things, winter clothes during the summer and summer clothes during the winter, and whatever else in there. I mentioned about the 3 different addresses. 1600 Mountain is an address possible for our street, so why would, if we didn't have frontage on that street, I don't understand why we'd have an address on that street. The maps that he's bringing up show Mountain coming across, and then it's Art Even. Well, I don't know when the change occurred, but Mountain is contiguous across there. It's Mountain Street going on, and Art Even runs north-south. So it is Mountain all the way until it turns into Sunset in Burbank, and Mountain goes all the way until Brand. So it's a contiguous street there. I don't understand why he does not see that as the smallest street frontage, which would make Grandview the street side setback. I think I may want to let my son come up here and speak because I know he would like to do that if I could.
If there's any...
Do you have any questions for me? Or
any questions?
Come as a Ripper speaker, can't he? Son?
Okay, I'll let... what I'll do now is I will thank you, Mr. Wharton B., and I will go through the cards, and I will let your son speak for 3 minutes as anyone else.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Franco Naravian, you wish to speak?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Franco Naravian. I'm the architect on the project. I just want to clarify a few points that were brought up. Of course, there are different ways of designing the project, but my client and I spent a great deal of time coming up with a design that would meet their requirements, their functional space requirements, and as well as minimizing the impact of the structure on the neighborhood. A couple of different suggestions were made. A second floor, I think, most definitely would have a greater impact on the neighborhood than the addition that we were doing. So that wasn't even a, when I got involved with the project, that wasn't even a consideration. And we're not treating this like the front. A comparison was made between this and the front of the house. We deliberately wanted this to not look like a front. We wanted to look like the back of the house, so we're not doing some of the things that were done to the front. And another idea was suggested to put up a 6-foot wall. I personally think that would have more of an impact because it would be continuous and be parallel with Grandview. What we're suggesting is at the 6 foot, first of all, is from property line. Like Gevorg said, there's an additional 15 feet to the curb. So that's 21 feet to the curb, but that's only at the closest point. Because it's a jagged plan, it doesn't appear as a solid mass going across parallel with Grandview. So I think this has less of an impact than a 6-foot wall, a fence wall would have. The reason the addition was there, we're also trying to have the least amount of impact on the existing house. And by connecting it in that way, we're able to do that. And as well as create a courtyard, because it's important for him to have a private space. Since there's streets all around them, it's important to have some private space. So that's the reason why it's there. And I think that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go to Stephen Wharton B.
Here in the jury, I have a request. We have some moms that have
request for priority.
They need sleep.
Let's see the kids.
You say?
Okay. I will do that. What's your name, ma'am?
Jennifer Barber.
Okay, why don't you come forward? Any other moms with young kids?
Where's the kid?
Okay. If you'd come up after Ms. Barbara.
Good evening, council, and I wanted to come, and my name is Jennifer Barber. I just wanted to come and represent my support and the neighborhood support for this project. They have, as you have seen, just gone way out of their way to accommodate their neighbors. I have long been involved in historical districting, so I have a great investment in that. And they also share their commitment with wanting to preserve the neighborhood, being very much in love with the architectural style. And whatever they do, I know that they are going to be fully committed to that. They shouldn't be told by these neighbors that never learned the golden rule in school, that they are not going to be able to build, even though they are building responsibly. They're being told by this constant aggressive action on their behalf. They're trying to stop them in their tracks for whatever reason it may be, and it's just not right. They are building responsibly, and they are committed to preserving the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next young lady with children? Yes, ma'am. And what is your name? Sorry.
My name is Serena Rockwell.
Serena Rockwell, yes.
Mayor, City Council, staff, my name is Serena Rockwell, and I hope that you will vote to approve this project. I think it's beautifully designed. I think that they have been incredibly considerate about the neighborhood. It's thoughtfully executed, and in regards to the neighbors and the neighborhood with minimal impact. It's contained completely within their backyard. And I disagree with Mr. Vartan. It is very much in keeping with the development of the neighborhood. And it's interesting to me, Mr. Vartan's home is beautiful. It's a beautiful Spanish house. It's 2 stories. But no one complained when he went from 1 story to 2, and you guys thought that point has been made. And it took 3 years of construction. And I just don't think he's being very neighborly, and it feels like he's being a bully. To use Mr. Vartan's word, he did not benefit the neighborhood or help anybody when he cut down an old growth tree, when he blocked people's views in the neighborhood. He seems focused and obsessed with the hedge, when I think the hedge is beautiful. He has not landscaped his own front yard. It's just desolate. It's a big, huge driveway with the interlocking bricks. And as far as being kicked out and forced into the street, I walk my dog every day. Every day. And I actually enjoy that there's no sidewalk there, that there's no concrete. It feels like, it's very nostalgic. It feels like years gone past. I mean, it's so nice. There's these big, huge palm trees and this nice grass and these hedges. So I feel really safe. I think feels like there's a big, wide area for me to walk my dog there. Because, you know, cars can go up really quickly up Grandview. So I'm not really sure what their focus is and why they're being not very nice and not very neighborly. So I hope that you will approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Mortonby?
Hello, my name is Stephen Whartonby. I'm here to ask for the support of my family's project. My parents have tried their hardest to please everyone in the neighborhood. They had over 50 signatures for the design review board in support of the project. There were only 2 opposing it. And so we obviously can't please everyone if certain people are going to be extremely different from the majority. The argument he brings up is that he's here because he thinks the project can be improved. By that means he wouldn't be able to pass anything, because obviously someone's always going to think it can be improved. If there's no compelling reason to get not pass what has already been approved unanimously by the design review board, you should not be revoking the decision. It's already been passed. He hasn't brought up any new arguments that weren't at the design review board meeting. It's the exact same thing that did not help him at all at the design review board. It's already been unanimously passed, so he has to have a compelling reason to overturn it. I don't understand why he's opposing this so strongly. He doesn't seem to have any personal investment in the matter. We're not hurting anyone with the involvement. All my family wants is to be able to spend time with my grandparents, my mother's parents, so they can come out and not have to spend the winters alone. They have like a friend within 20 miles. They live out in the countryside of Michigan. The winters are terrible. They just want to be with us. And that's one of the main reasons we want this addition. So there's really no concrete reason why this is being appealed. It's either allow us to be like with our grandparents and just go with the decision that's already been made, or unnecessarily revoke the design review board and really have no benefit to. There's no benefit to revoking this what's already been approved. So thank you very much. Please approve the project.
Thank you. Cindy Carter?
Hi, I'm here to support the Whartonbys, and I just wanted to say I've lived in Glendale for over 30 years, and I walk past their house. My kids go to the park, and they make their house look so beautiful from the time they bought it, and I don't understand why there's so much hatred. I think if they put more effort into being kind to the neighbors, that would help a lot more. And they've done everything. They went from a 2-story to 1-story, and they've done everything to accommodate the neighbors. They got 50 signatures from immediate neighbors, while they got signatures from family or whatever. and it was approved, and I asked that it would be approved. And all the neighbors are for this. And it's not even visible from the street, and it's not bothering anybody, so I hope that you would approve it. Thank you.
Thank you. Maria Ruiz?
I think a large part of the issue is the thoughtfulness and with a thought to the neighborhood. And both Christina and Bob have spearheaded organizing block parties. Christina really reaches out to a lot of the elderly people in the neighborhood. She cooks meals for anyone, watches people's kids, and they really are thoughtful in their neighborliness. And I think their reconsideration of all the designs has always factored in for them. And I just would ask you to listen to that, because they are considering all of that in their project. So thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Leffler?
Good evening. Thank you. I can't speak much to the architectural details of this project, but I have lived in the neighborhood for 13 years, and keeping the integrity and the beauty of the neighborhood is really important to me. I love our neighborhood. I think it's gorgeous up there. I think this project, it doesn't detract anything. Listening to some of the discussion about the slides make it sound like there's this huge towering thing right on the edge of Grandview, and it's not. There's a very wide piece of landscaped land there. This is a small project, and I think it will contribute to the neighborhood and not detract from it at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan McGregor?
Hi, my name is Ryan McGregor. I've known the Whartonbys for about 3 years now. As far as I can tell, this doesn't pose any, disruption to anyone. And I've seen the plans, and it looks great. And as long as I've known Bob, he is, very committed to what he does, and will, would do anything to, stay up to code with everyone and make sure everyone's satisfied and comply with all the neighbors and everyone. And not very good at this, but I would just like to be here for support and hope it gets approved.
Thank you. Philip Keller?
Good evening, Mayor and Council and City staff. My name is Philip Keller. I'm a board member with the Northwest Glendale Homeowners Association, and I serve as its DRB representative to the city. It seems very clear to me that all three of these appellants, the appellants' three major arguments against the project have been shown to be clearly without merit by the city's analysis by the planning department in the write-up before you. All of this, in addition to the initial unanimous ruling by DRB number 1 in favor of approving this proposed project, make it very clear there's no reason to delay this any further. Homeowners Association strongly feels that this project is well designed, compatible with the existing structure and the surrounding neighborhood and the architectural style of the neighborhood. We urge you to sustain the original DRB ruling to approve this proposed project. The owner has really chosen the best and most suitable location for the addition on the lot, as he's already ably described. I urge you to uphold the DRB ruling. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rubik Ovanesian?
Good evening. My name is Rubik Ovanesian. I'm a property owner across the street, business owner. I live at 1770 Grandview. I spoke at the design review board hearing in opposition of it, not for design, architecture, color, any of those issues. None of it is visible. Actually, architect has done a good enough job for the property and the design. My opposition was for a setback. Given the ruling, that decision that the planning department has made as far as the frontage being Grandview, and I'm going to hand out some pictures so you can see it's a round section. There's no actually access to it. By giving that determination, that is the frontage, and Grandview and El Mirador are the sides, and then they're saying you need a 6-foot setback. Let me turn the tables over. So if you approve this 6-foot setback design, 5 years later, they've sold the house, they're gone, another property owner comes. All they have to do is plant a hedge on El Miradero. That is a side. Legally, within 6 feet, they can build another structure. And given the square footage of the lot, they can easily build another 600 to 700 square feet. And they can easily put it there. City ruled. West Mountain is the frontage. So you have to be sensitive. Let me turn the tables over. Another argument to you. So you can see why it's critical the setback is taken care of, and there is within the 10, 12 feet of setback or 15, whatever currently the existing house is. Let's turn the table around and say the frontage, the house back when Ganji built it 60 years ago, the house was built with the frontage on Grandview. 25 feet setback as the house currently has fronts on El Miradero. And it was done because the adjacent house was built with a frontage on El Miradero. So if the house had existing current frontage on the Grandview, now the property owners, Wharton Bees, are going to turn around and actually add to the back, fronting within 6 feet on El Miradero. And they have a hedge. Sidewalk is not the issue. They have, let's say, a hedge. It's not visible. What would the homeowners on El Miradero do? It would be the same argument. Whatever the decision the planning department has made with the frontage, that is incorrect. The frontage is Grandview. Mr. Brand, when they subdivided these lots, when he owned the entire parcel of land, his wishes were, let's sustain enough setback. In addition, surrounding properties, my property has a side front setback of 50 feet, side setback 15 feet. Adjacent property across the street at 1760 has a 15 feet setback on the side. If this is the side, the other adjacent property on El Miradero at the northwest corner has a 12 feet setback fronting on the West Mountain. Property adjacent abutting has a 15 feet setback on south at 1745. If it's looking at the neighbors, it needs to be at least a 15 feet setback. I'm going to pass out these pictures you can see. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Urbanesian. Margaret Hammond?
Good evening, Your Honor, members, council and staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. I had not meant to get involved in this and had looked at somewhat at what was going on with the hearing and so forth. And I really feel that the original motion should be sustained, that the original motion by the Design Review Board to approve the design. These people have done everything to comply with city rules, regulations. The staff has agreed that, yes, it's good, that what they're doing they felt was worthy of their support. And I do believe that, after all, the owners do have a right to their property. They want to use it to the best advantage. I myself feel the same way, that if I had family that wanted to come out and stay with me and so forth from those bad winters back there, that, it's nice to have somewhere to have your family stay with you, particularly when they're getting older. And I do think that they have gone out of their way to comply with their neighbors and with everything that they've been asked to do. And I do believe that the obsession with having cement sidewalks put in there, particularly when it's on their property and not on the appellate's property. And I remember him insisting on having a lot of things done on his property by the city, and nobody objected to it. So I really feel that the motion should be sustained, because it's, after all, we do have property rights, and it is a quality of life thing to have their family come out and stay with them. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other cards. We permit closing arguments, Mr. Howard? What's been our policy?
It's the mayor's prerogative, depending on the case and the complexity of it.
Okay.
And certainly you can certainly allow the appellants some brief time to rebut. That's generally the case in the variances and the CUPs.
Okay, I have one question that I'd like to ask of staff that I think is the critical question of this. And I got different or Hassan. Here's the question, and I mean, to me, I think the critical question is, what street? This is a triangle-shaped lot. What portion of that is considered the front? And correct me if I'm using the wrong term. Councilmember Friedman asked you how many sides of frontage are there, and you said there are 3. So I need to know, in terms of determining the front of the lot, the setback, for the front setback, what is our standard for determining that, and how does that correlate with the document number 11 that Mr. Vartanyan said, that says you don't count the radius, the curved portion of that. That, I think I need some clarification on that. If whoever from staff is best able to answer that question, or legal, or whoever is out there that wants to. Mr. Foy.
Yes, sir.
Do you know what I'm referring to?
I do know what you're referring to,
page
yes.
11?
Regarding page 11, there is a definition of a corner lot in the zoning code which holds that if an angle is more than 130, it is only a corner lot if the angle is less than 135 degrees. Which would, well, we don't have a picture up, but which would mean if,
Can we put a plot map up there? What does that mean? What angle are we looking at?
135 is less. Half the circle is 180.
This lot's shaped like a pie. I mean, not a pie, but...
Half the circle is 180. 135 is a little less than half. 90 is this is 90.
90 is the right angle.
And then
okay, so it's not a
180
corner.
is this, and it's more like this. 135.
Okay, can you see that, Mr. Foy, behind you? So what are we talking about when you talk about reference 135?
If you suppose, even if we take the argument that there is no Mountain Street frontage, and the frontages are only El Miradero and Grandview, that means it would appear to I don't have a protractor with me, but it would appear to me that that angle actually does exceed 135 degrees going up El Miradero and back down Grandview.
It's about a 45-degree angle, let's say.
Well, it's close. I'm eyeballing it, I will admit.
Okay,
however, that does suppose that there is no Mountain Street frontage, and there does appear to be, a substantial amount in the historic record that planning has consistently looked at this as having a Mountain Street frontage. So, in that case, it's not a typical corner lot. This is obviously an unusual case with 3 streets coming together.
This is not a typical corner lot, but I don't really understand.
Right,
are we just going on a historical determination that we're falling back on, or is there a codified or a policy that has been written?
The diagram D11 illustrates what happens when 2 streets intersect. This is a case where 3 streets intersect, and the best drawing I have in front of me here is from the email you received yesterday, this drawing here, which appears to show something like a 47-foot long arc here at what appears to be the tip of the lot.
Okay,
so
you're
some
saying
portion of that would be the Mountain
lot.
Street frontage.
Okay.
I don't have an exact figure on what is the Mountain Street frontage. But I'm saying that even if you suppose that there were only two streets intersecting here, the definition of a corner lot in the zoning code calls into question whether this really would be considered a corner lot because of the steep sharpness of the angle, in which case it would all be considered one frontage, which clearly this has not been considered in the past.
And if I
It's
may,
not been considered a through lot.
You know, I can't help but say that when you start talking about needing a protractor to think about what the code's about, there's a problem. I'm more interested in what the intent of the code is and how this falls within that or doesn't fall within that.
right, and just to address that, I think what Tim was just demonstrating is when we confront a situation where the exact language of the code does not necessarily fit the case that we're looking at, we go back and forth and we ask ourselves a series of questions. And that's the way that Tim was just illustrating. So we ask a series of questions, and if those questions are not exactly answering the questions, then we look at the historic record. And in this case, not only did staff conclude that based on asking those series of questions, they would then come to the conclusion that Mountain was the frontage of the lot. Then they went back and looked at the historic record of the property, and based on a series of decisions that the city had made in the past, it was reasonable to conclude that counting Mountain as a frontage of the property was more consistent with the history of the property than otherwise. Therefore, staff felt much more comfortable after having asked the same questions of themselves and coming to the conclusion that their conclusion was in fact correct and Mountain was the answer that they were looking for the frontage of the street. Tim, is there anything, am I saying this correctly, and would you like to add something?
Okay, one more question.
Yes, sir.
And I'm just... I mean, it has to be asked. If the intent was that Mountain be the frontage of the house, why doesn't the house have a Mountain Street address? Why is there a El Miradero address?
It actually has all three addresses.
It has all three.
It has. And it's not unusual in Glendale to come across this, yes.
So it has all three?
It does.
Okay. Okay, that clears it a little bit for me. Are there any... Since we're asking questions, are there any questions?
Yeah. So, if Mountain was not a frontage, would then the condition be that on the Grandview side, the whole house would have to have a 25-foot setback? Because the existing condition right now,
right,
is it like an 8-foot setback, I believe? 12-foot setback. So, if this house... So and you're not considering this house a non-conforming condition, right?
No.
So for us to accept the appellant's argument that the frontage, that you can't look at Mountain, makes the whole house be, yeah?
I'm not taking any other cards from the public at this point. Council has begun its discussion and deliberation.
Okay. So anyway, if we accepted the appellant's case, if we accepted his premise, that would mean that the entire house would go from being a legal conforming condition to a non-conforming condition. So that's a very big, it has a much bigger kind of, and since the house right now is legal, then, kind of on its face, it says to me that's the existing condition.
And if I may, this is an important situation that you just raised, Councilwoman Friedman, because for us to jump into the conclusion that an existing condition for which we have no real evidence that there is existing legal non-conforming situation, we haven't found that evidence. For us to come to that conclusion, that's another leap that we would have to actually provide some evidence for ourselves, and we haven't found any evidence to say that this is an existing legal non-conforming case.
Okay. I'm going to give the appellant a 2-minute closing opportunity to rebut or address any of the issues, and then council will go to deliberations.
Thank you again. Just a couple of things. Addresses do not set property frontage, so you could have properties fronting one, having an address, but the frontage is different. Again, if you go back to the evidence, the original building permit on the property did not show Mountain Street. It showed Grandview Avenue. It clearly called out the setback. And the setback is pretty much the only zoning requirement that were in effect at that time. There was a determination last year by a senior planner that Grandview Avenue was the frontage, and there was an error at the time of original construction. So things have been built on this property against the code. You cannot perpetuate them. What I'm suggesting, let the property owner apply for a variance like any other situation in the city, and I'll be in support of them. They're in a hardship. They didn't cause this. But let's follow the process. Have them apply for a variance. I'll be there supporting their case. And then just follow the process. There was a statement at one point that information, data without application is trivia. And codes without application, they become, it loses its meaning. So that's what I'm here for, just following the codes that are in effect so everybody can enjoy the same benefits that code. And again, that corner, there's no question that lot is a corner lot. If you would take may I point this out, please? The property, this is also a corner lot. Is planning suggesting that the radius there is the frontage and the development can go 6 feet on either side? This is a corner lot. 6 feet, 6 feet. The 130, you take the center line of this street and Grand Avenue, and it's less than 90, so this becomes a corner lot. The radius does not come into effect as a frontage. It's clear in the code. It's codified. It's practiced.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vartanians. Okay. Let's go to council. Mr. Weaver.
Okay, you have to bear with me because a few things I want to air out here. But try to write them down in order that makes most sense. One, I think in my 14 years here, this is the most frivolous appeal I've ever seen and put in front of me. I see no real basis for it, and I wonder what the real motivation is. I have some ideas, but I will not share them because I can't prove them. Let's see, 2, 3, 4. Lot development. Just guessing. Leave that up there. Way back when L.C. Brand owned Brand Park, I believe his access to that was Grandview. And, as the case probably happened, property started developing along Grandview. On the right side of Grandview, that tract map was filed in September of 1920. It did not get to Mountain. I assume, these are all assumptions, L.C. Brand had his airfield to the west. And coming out of El Miradero, he came through where people now live to get to his airfield. But it stopped. And every property south of there, and the lots get increasingly larger as they go south, were developed off of Grandview. When the air ray went away, and I don't know what year that he stopped using the airfield, all the land to the west developed in different tract maps. And you start to see a systematic pattern of streets on lot widths and lengths to the west. That's where El Miradero came in. And the lots numbered from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. I worked with tract maps for years with the city of Los Angeles. I'll tell you, they went up, and most logical answers when they got to the end lot up there, colored in blue, it was a remnant. So they had the two streets coming together. It was a remnant. They stuck it in. I'll be willing to bet Mountain to the east was there years back, stopped there, and they gave a name Mountain because it ended at Mountain. And El Miradero took on the other name. Since it never did have frontage onto Grandview, probably they put the frontage of the house on El Miradero because it was a part of a project, and as I heard tonight, probably in 1926, 6 years after the project along Grandview had developed. That's my best guess. Support for and against. That's very interesting. The opposition, loyal opposition, submitted 28 signatures, 19 of which were separate streets. Only 3 on Grandview. Not all these. Some are on Adams Hill in opposition. Some are on Alameda in opposition. Wowee! These people came up, they studied the project, they climbed over the wall or tried to look over to study this project. I'm sure they all came down to City Hall and studied it, right? The ones for it, 52 out of 52 live in the immediate area supporting it. I got an email today from a lady who remained anonymous, and she writes, "It appears to us to really be a future in-law apartment. The rooms are way out of proportion to the stated purpose. It could easily be converted to a storage room, or turned from a large storage room into an unpermitted kitchen." And further down, that the property is actually located on city property, but appears to have been counted as part of the setback requirement. Setback requirement needs to be figured from the property line, not the curb line of the street. The proposed addition would become a complete eyesore to the residents on Grandview. We are amazed that the city of Glendale does not comply with the approved building code and setback restrictions throughout the city, but instead appears to pick and choose when and where they will not be applied. This comes from a resident on Grandview who signed the letter supporting it. And today, she's totally, intimately familiar with the project. She knows the city codes. She knows everything. You think that's logical or believable? Heck no, to use a nice language. Let's see, what's next? Oh wait, I want to make sure Mr. Vartanians tried to meet with all of us. I refused to meet with him because it was on appeal. I don't know if my colleagues did. I'm disclosing that I did not, and his did. I know we all have to say that publicly. Friday, we did get another pamphlet, which the other side has not seen. Today, I got 2 or 3 emails about things that you have never seen. Nothing holding any weight. So, any of the others can say if they spoke, whatever. 7, 8. Try to. Owner letter. I want to read this because we got it, and it's not very nice. It's to the city planning from the homeowners. Told that you wanted us to both talk about compromise in order to reach an appeal. Here's what we'd like everyone at the city planning department to know about our project, as I'm sure many people weren't involved or around when this was in its initial planning stage. For the past 8 years, we have been put through a lot in planning this addition. 8 years. 1, confirmed all setbacks with city planners and the zoning director. Been asked by the city to file a variance so we could have a building taller than 20 feet. Due diligence found we did not need a variance, although over 20 feet, no additional non-conforming, no added non-conformity. Met with the planner, city architect, and historical planner in regards to design. Been asked to and made changes to the second-story chamfer wall, window hood, downspouts, and balcony railings. As an aside, planner, city architect, historical planner loved the design. Been asked by planning to set back the second story because of the two neighbors across the street on Grandview. Objected to having it so close to the street, massing. First floor to remain, 6-foot setback. This has never been a concern. Tried to come up with a different 2-story design without obstructing immediate neighbor's view, house to the south. Changed our original plan to build a 1,300-foot plus square foot 2-story structure to a 12 by 22 pole due to two 2 neighbors' complaints, asked for time for redesign, hired an architect, redesigned to a 1-story structure, no more second story, no room or swimming pool, cut 350 feet from the original design, 27% due to neighbors' complaints, submitted new plan to planning. We were requested to change the roof line per historic planner, with which we complied. Submitted plan to Glendale Art DRB, approved 4-0, with conditions that are acceptable. Now, after redesigning our entire project from a 2-story addition with a pool to a 1-story addition without a pool, we have been asked to compromise even more. There has been no compromise at all. We have given to each time. We have more than bent over backwards, working with the city to get our design supported by the planning department while satisfying the concerns of our neighbors. Now these same neighbors want us to move the structure away from Grandview another 6 feet for no apparent reason, without any regard to our immediate neighbor to the south. Moving the structure to the west would block their view of the mountains, which has always been taken into consideration, and make the already downsized courtyard at best unusable. Please note that one of the neighbors' asserts that the city is wrong with their final decision on our setbacks, and this is the reason for the opposition. Although over 50 immediate neighbors support our project, including the 2 adjacent neighbors next door, who are the most affected by the addition, it seems the 2 complaining neighbors' opinions take precedence, and they have made it obvious that they will never be happy no matter what we do. Each time we comply with the changes they request, they have a new problem or complaint. We have Rubik Avanesian on video yelling, "I will make this corner a nightmare until you move." It's on video. This is not someone who can be reasoned with. Also, we are being asked to compromise with the 2 opposing neighbors, but it's important to realize that one of the biggest issues for both of them is our hedge and the city's hedge surrounding our property. One wants to rip out the hedge to put in sidewalks, and the other major concern is if the hedges ever come down, he wants to make sure they are left untouched. I ask you, how would you compromise on that? I could go on, but I tell you, I had to say that. Sidewalks are being repaired on the east side of Grandview now by Vart Construction, First City, on the east side. There's no need to put sidewalks the entire length on the west side. In fact, it will never happen, because you're going to take out palm trees and make a lot of irate people up and down Grandview. They have a sidewalk to walk on. Another one I got, you were involved in the historic districting. I'm proud of that. You did that. That was about, let's see, 8,
You can just
9.
log those into the record, Mr. Weaver.
Yeah, hey, these are all city. They were here. I have anything else? No, I guess that's about it. Seems these couple do not want that property developed ever. And I think that is wrong. There's no reason. Now, if Mr. Albanesian wants them out, he's going to yell at them and see that they're out. Why, he wants to buy their property? What's going on? What's the motivation? I don't like what I see in here. This is frivolous, and it should never have been in front of us. I put these neighbors through 8 years, build something that they're entitled to. This is an unusual lot. I don't think there's another one in Glendale that ends up so narrow at one end. You can't put it towards mountain. There's no additional room there. You have to put it in the back there. Give the poor homeowners a break. So, may not be liked in some quarters, but that's how I read it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Draymond.
We still in the same 24-hour period?
Well, this is one of the times I talked a little longer, but I think it had to get out.
I'm just teasing you, Mr. Weaver.
Just was not pretty.
I'm just teasing you, Mr. Weaver. Well, let me start with Mr. Weaver, actually. Early on when we
turned up the lights for you.
As well.
Want to keep me in the dark. That's okay.
Earlier, Mr. Weaver, you asked why, and it was interesting that you asked why of Mr. Vartanian's, because shortly before you asked that question, I wrote a note here to myself. Why? With a question mark. Because the question just kept coming to me. And I'm sorry to echo some of your comments, Mr. Weaver.
No, I'd be happy if you echoed my comments for once.
I have to tell you, this is, and I'm sorry to say, Mr. Vartanians, you're a very smart man and a good city employee, and you're probably an excellent engineer.
Yes.
But this is, to me, an appeal without any merit whatsoever. It just doesn't have any merit at all, and you. The issues that belie that are even down to the petition that you submitted to this city council. With people signing this petition from as far away as my neck of the woods up in Montrose, people on Sycamore, people on Adams Hill, on Palmer, places like that, Alameda. Immediately it smells. And you start to ask yourself, why? What's this, as Mr. Weaver put it, really all about? But you tell me, and I try to take everybody at their word when they come up here on these appeals, and you say that their current home is imposing. I made a note of that. That was the exact word you used. It was imposing, and that your intent was to preserve the elegance of the area. And that's why I asked you earlier, it was the only thing I asked prior to my comments now, whether this was your home. It's a two-story sort of yellowish home there on Grandview. Very low. It's a beautiful, I haven't been in it, but beautiful home on the outside. You did a great job with it. But I got to tell you, you think this is imposing? Let's pull that up. On my staff report, it's on page 1 of 11.
Is it?
Not in.
That's not.
I don't know.
That's 1550.
That's not in the PowerPoint.
Not in the PowerPoint.
It's not in the PowerPoint. Well, we have a picture of the front of the house.
Yeah,
Further back, so we can see the whole house. Well,
that's El Matoro.
Suffice it to say, this is a very nice home at 1550 El Miradero. Hardly an imposing home. This, your home, also a very nice home. I would say that's an imposing home. Sits up, looks over into people's yards. I'm not understanding this. When I was elected to office in 2007, a lot of residents were saying to me, we needed changes to design review and the process and the appeals process and all that. And I told the public that if I was elected, that would be what I would set out to accomplish. And I was fortunate enough to be elected in 2007, and I was fortunate enough to have the support of the City Council to move forward and reform a lot of the problems with DRB, a lot of the compatibility issues, a lot of the issues regarding appeals. I couldn't imagine, and I can't imagine, that we are wasting our time with this. Why? Why do you want us to overturn the decision of the DRB on this, Mr. Vartanians? Because you personally disagree with their interpretation, with planning staff's interpretation, and our own engineers' interpretations. Well, you're entitled to your opinion. Then we hear that, well, there's a historic component to that. And I know that Mr. Weaver was a personal friend of L.C. Brand. He swiped that history from L.C. Brand's desk in elementary school.
Was actually dating Amelia Earhart at the time when he talked about
in Waikiki Beach, I know.
That was going to be my opening comment.
Nothing, Mr. Weaver.
No, I didn't know L.C. Brand. You know, we can hear back there. You forget that, don't you, man?
Nothing, Mr. Weaver. You can go back to sleep.
Thank you. I'll be right back. I was making a phone call.
You know, you can carry that out to its illogical and silly extreme. You know, up in La Crescenta, Benjamin Briggs laid out La Crescenta, and his vision was that all the streets were going to be on angles, cutting through the community. But guess what? As time went by, it developed differently. Sometimes there's the impression that everything that comes before us in the form of appeal, with all of these different issues with specific homes, fall into very specific categories of latitude and longitude, and that they're right in the crosshairs of right and wrong, and it just doesn't work that way. It comes to a matter of interpretation. If it didn't, there wouldn't be a process like an appeal process that comes to a group of people that are looking at basically the reasonableness of what is being presented. It seems to me that there's an awful lot of discussion about whether hedges are trees or hedges, and why the hedges are such a big issue, I don't even understand, because we don't consider landscaping in front of a house anyway as to, we don't even consider that as, well, it'll hide a bad design. And the DRB considered that issue anyway at their hearing and dismissed it. It seems there's some intimidation going on, for sure. I don't know why. I'm going to vote to sustain the DRB's ruling, but I just want to end with this. The most reasonable and reasoned input I've heard tonight was from young Mr. Whartonby, and I thank you for your comments. They were about the house. They were about the people that live in the house and the reasons for the addition. And I got to tell you, that was more on point to me than virtually anything else I heard tonight. I can't take into account how nice the Whartonbys are. I don't know them. I have to assume they're nice people. Mr. Vartanian, this is probably a nice person, too. You all are so lucky to live up in a neighborhood in this city that is well-established, beautiful neighborhood. It's really a lovely place to live. Why this dissension amongst these particular residents, I don't understand. I truly don't want to understand. At this point, I don't want to know. All I can tell you is this should never have come on appeal to this council. We have spent almost 2 hours now on this appeal. This is just ridiculous. I wish you luck with your build. I hope you enjoy your home, and I hope that whatever the intimidation is that's been going on doesn't continue when and if the rest of my colleagues do support that. I hope that it stops here. And if it doesn't stop here, I certainly hope that you're going to come to the city and ask for some kind of assistance. So I thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Friedman.
Thank you. Not to drag this out, I'll give you my comments. First, in the issues, in the interest, it's been a very long day. In the interest of full disclosure, I met briefly with the applicant. She didn't say anything in that meeting that she didn't say tonight. I also had the benefit of the appellant's very well laid out booklet, so in my mind that's sort of a wash. I know Mr. Ovanesian. He's been a supporter of mine. I know the appellant, of course, because he is a city employee. So just get that out there. This is an unusual lot, so I think that, I always get concerned when things come down to protractors and is it a tree or is it a shrub. I think we need to sort of be reasonable people and look at the intent of the code. And I think the intent is met here with this house. It is where it is. If I accepted the appellant's view, the house would all of a sudden become a non-conforming condition, and I think that that's going way too far with this. It's certainly a compatible addition, which is the primary goal of design review, and the reason why if this comes out of design review, the primary thing we'd be looking at. I think it would be unreasonable to say that if they have 3 frontages, which is what I'm told, they would have to have 3 25-foot setbacks on each side of their property. That just doesn't make any sense. So they have a setback already that's 25 feet, the mountain one, then the other 2 become the side of the house. It's only reasonable. It's not fair to say that all of a sudden they should have to have a 25-foot setback from each angle on a lot like this. But basically, as Mr. Weaver said, this was probably a remnant lot. At some point, it was decided to be developed, and it is what it is. Are they continuing a bad condition by this? Are they hurting anybody? No. I think it's a very reasonable addition. I don't see how even the appellant himself couldn't make the case that it was any way detrimental to a neighbor, detrimental to him. So I don't see what the harm is. It seems, I will vote to sustain the DRB's unanimous decision. And I do hope that as we move forward that the neighbors can find a way to get along. I wish I had advice for you. I'm not a social worker, so I don't. But, I hope that this can all be put into the past and you can all be happy neighbors. I'm sorry that it became so personal and that some of the testimony was so personal. I disregarded that. I never listened to that. I don't care if the people are nice people, not nice people. It's about the house and it's about the project, and that's what I'm making my decision on, period. Thank you very much.
Mr. Quintero.
Okay, I'll be brief. I didn't meet with either party. I did read the materials and drove around the area to familiarize myself. Not that I'm not familiar with either street. I will, of course, support the project. I mean, it's in a way sort of a slam dunk, as some of the other council members have mentioned. Franco Naravian is a premier architect, and I know whatever he does is going to be very compatible, not only with the neighborhood, but compatible with the existing structure. Then on the issue of the siting of the house, Miradero is a logical siting for this property. I mean, all you have to do is drive down Miradero to understand that the house should be facing that street and not facing Grandview. Among other things, it's a much more quiet street. It's been there for many years. So the appellant did not meet the standard. I think it's going to be a great project. I'm sorry that the Whartonbys had to go through everything that you had to go through. Sometimes that's just the way civic life is. But I do think you did a very good job. You crossed all the T's. You started with a 2-story and wound up with a 1-story, and that's not lost on me. You absolutely gave up an original design and settled for second best. I'm sure you would have enjoyed a pool, and your parents would have also enjoyed the pool. You gave that up. So I think you went out of your way to work with the neighborhood, and this should be the last stop. You should be able to build your project, get it done quickly, and I'm sure you'll live happily ever after.
Mr. Draymond?
Microphone.
Sorry to interrupt. I guess I should probably say for the record, I didn't meet with either party either. I had the same emails and materials sent by the appellant, and I had the same input and information from the property owners.
Mr. Weaver.
I just want to add one thing. I'd like, after this is all over, if it's approved, I'd like staff to check on that easement that's at the back of their lot. Just doesn't make any sense why it's there. If not, we get rid of it, they don't have to shorten their addition up.
You mean the private one or the GWP one?
GWP.
Whatever easement that is going at the rear of their lot, the south side of the triangle, the one at the
We'll
back.
check for utility and other public agency easements. We
Just
do not
doesn't make
enforce private easements or private covenants.
But I don't know why it's there, because it's going from El Madero over to Grandview, one house long.
That's GWP. Okay, that's easy to check.
Okay, thank you. And my comments are as follows. I was feeling rather uncomfortable when we were going through the character assassination part of this hearing. Really, the issues before us were the design of the house, the placement of the house, the setback issues. And the setback issue in particular was the most critical to me. It is still not a totally clear issue. It's rather confusing. We asked for clarification, and I think everyone in the audience realizes it's not entirely clear. Deciding it one way versus another leaves all sorts of crazy sort of setbacks for that particular lot. So I can appreciate Mr. Vartanyan's, I guess, standing on principle as to trying to clear up the setback determination and the definition of the frontage. So I'm going to take that at its face value and give him the benefit of the doubt. But the problem I had then was when he suggests that the setback should be determined with El Merodero as the front or as Grandview as the front, and then says, well, the applicant should go through a variance process, at which point I would support your request for a variance. Well, I mean, we could have bypassed all that at this point because, in fact, Mr. Vartanyan is the one who is making the appeal. He's the appellant on this. So if at the end of the day, whether it was a route by a variance or through the DRB route with a determination of Mountain Street being the frontage of the home, we're getting to the same spot anyway at the end of the day. So I don't know if anyone else picked up on that, but to me that was a pretty, determining factor. So I would also be voting to sustain the DRB's position on this proposed addition. Is there a motion? And I will close the public hearing.
Move 9A1 as amended per.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Weaver. Mr. Mayor, members of council, in light of the comment from staff earlier that there was an error in the staff report involving the existing garage not being any closer to the neighbor, or the proposed addition not being any closer to the garage of the neighbor, and that, in fact, it is, there's a sentence that we picked up from the staff report into the motion that needs to be deleted. That's on page 2. It is the second sentence, which it states, and I'll quote, "In addition, the addition is no closer to Grandview than is the existing garage on the adjacent property to the south." That sentence now needs to be deleted. The staff has indicated that, in fact.
Can I ask you a question while you're amending things? Under council action, how come it says approved for September 20th, 2008?
I'm sorry?
That's what it says.
On page 1 of our entire packet, where the agenda item is listed.
Approved for September 21st, 2008.
Oh, well, that's just...
Can we amend that as well?
There's no substance to that. We're having a public hearing today. The public hearing is September 21st, 2010. That's a technical error. You're going to be adopting the motion, not the staff report's date.
I thought I was being helpful.
Yeah, I probably picked that up from a previous staff
my report does have the correction on it, so...
Yours does?
Yeah. So does mine.
So somebody must have gone through and made the date correction, just didn't catch yours.
Yeah, mine says 2008 as well.
Does yours say September 20th, 2008?
Okay, well...
It states in the bar under council action, but on the top it says September 21st, 2010.
In any event, the only modification would be the one that you just mentioned, Mr. Howard.
To delete the second sentence of page 2, which relates to the distance of the proposed project from the garage to the south.
Okay, will someone make that motion?
So moved.
Incorporating the modification. Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmembers Draymond?
Yes.
Friedman?
Yes.
Harrow?
Yes.
Weaver?
Aye.
Mayor Najarian?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask one other thing? Is there anything, Mr. Howard, that we've had here that has to be put into the record?
It'll all be included in the record, all written documents presented.
So
that'll be part of the record as well, and the record should reflect that was provided, again, albeit not by the appellant, but by staff, who provided a copy to the applicants at the commencement of the hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Next item, Mr. Kasakian.
Next item, we return to oral communication, where discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Each council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. City manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report.
Thank you. I have a card from Nancy Kent. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, my name is Nancy Kent, resident of Glendale. Disclaimer, I don't smoke or sell marijuana, and as far as I know, the people that I hang out with also don't smoke and sell marijuana. I am too timid to speak publicly in favor of the legalization and taxation of marijuana, but I am willing to quote statements from a group called Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, LEAP, or LEAP. The members of LEAP are mostly retired law enforcement officials. It would be appreciated if any of you would be willing to denounce the ineffective war on drugs, denounce drug profits going to violent gangs, and support yes on Proposition 19. I don't expect to get that, but I can ask. Here's the beginning of the Statement of Principles of Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. Quote, number 1, LEAP does not promote the use of drugs and is deeply concerned about the extent of drug abuse worldwide. LEAP is also deeply concerned with the destructive impact of violent drug gangs and cartels everywhere in the world. Neither problem is remedied by the current policy of drug prohibition. Indeed, drug abuse and gang violence flourish in a drug prohibition environment, just as they did during alcohol prohibition. Statement number 2, LEAP advocates the elimination of the policy of drug prohibition and the inauguration of a replacement policy of drug control and regulation, including regulations imposing appropriate age restrictions on drug sales and use, just as there are age restrictions on marriage, signing contracts, alcohol, tobacco, operating vehicles, and so on. End quote. There's an abundance of common sense statements coming from this group. Here are some points from LEAP's September 13th, 2010 letter to the voters of California, signed by 32 former and current law enforcement officers. The title of their press release with this letter is California Law Enforcers Endorse Marijuana Legalization. Quote, as police officers, judges, prosecutors, corrections officials, and others who have labored to enforce the laws that seek to prohibit cannabis, marijuana use, and who have witnessed the abysmal failure of the current criminalization approach, we stand together in calling for new laws that will effectively control and tax cannabis. As criminal justice professionals, we have seen with our own eyes that keeping cannabis illegal damages public safety for cannabis consumers and non-consumers alike. We've also seen that prohibition sometimes has tragic consequences for the law enforcers charged with putting their lives on the line to enforce it. The only groups that benefit from continuing to keep marijuana illegal are the violent gangs and cartels that control its distribution and reap immense profits from it through the black market. Controlling marijuana through a regulated system will also reduce its availability to kids. Right now, illegal dealers have no incentive to check IDs or avoid selling to juveniles, given that the market is illegal for everyone. But under adult legalization, licensed cannabis businesses will face penalties and consequences that will effectively deter underage sales. Indeed, a recent study from Columbia University shows that teens currently find it easier to purchase illegal marijuana than age-regulated alcohol. End quote. So, if you oppose drug profits going to violent gangs, vote yes on Proposition 19 to regulate and tax marijuana. More later on this, and the website for this group, LEAP, is www.copssaylegalizedrugs.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Margaret Hammond.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, members of the council that are still here, staff, and audience. My name is Margaret Hammond. I want to say one thing. We had a wonderful time at our 30-year anniversary of the Glendale Historical Society up in Brand Park. The house looked beautiful, which is, of course, a city-owned property. And it was great to see some of the people that had been around in the early days to work on the house. Hadn't seen a lot of them for a lot of years. Of course, we were a lot older, and a lot were missing. As I say, they've gone to a better place, I hope. But at any rate, it was a wonderful time, and we did miss you all, or any of you coming to our event. And October 6th, the Glendale Historical is going to be having a tour of homes, and it's going to be called Adobe to Atomic. And it's going to be, the kickoff is going to be the Casa de San Rafael, which is the Adobe up on Dorothy. And the idea being that here was the earliest building, one of the earliest buildings in Glendale. And some of the newer ones that are kind of far out there from probably the 1950s or whatever. I'm not putting them down. I happen to own one myself that's up on Adams Hill, you know, the kind I mean, as they call them, mid-century, with a flat roof, and I think it's 27 feet of windows across the front. But that's where it's going to be the kickoff for our tour, and I'll talk about it again later on. As a matter of fact, the Casa Adobe, I keep pushing it because it is a wonderful. When I came to Glendale, I didn't know about it, and then I got involved with the group that are docening and so forth. And it's just, we can't really, some of us, understand what a wonderful building that we have in that particular building. It's beautiful, and it's in very excellent shape. The city has maintained it. And how often when there's tours of children, school children, going through it, the questions and how excited they are about it, and the idea of how long it's been there and how they lived in those days. As a matter of fact, tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be there we're having 60 Boy Scouts doing a tour of the building. So that will be a really something to be there and see them go through it. The other thing is that is really being ongoing, and I've talked about it before, is the horrific driving habits of people in Glendale. I have friends that say, I will not go to Glendale. I will not go shopping there. Won't have anything to do with it. They're too afraid of the drivers in Glendale. And part of it is cell phones. All the time, cell phones, you see them. And I wish we can send men to the moon. Can we not get someone to perfect something that when you're driving, the phones will turn off? That would be a perfect solution. Because, I mean, we're facing another pedestrian that was killed in a crosswalk. And then the story of the driver who wanted to make a left turn in front of a person that was making a legal left turn at Monterey and Glendale. And he was angry because the driver in the left turn lane, who was making the legal left turn, didn't let him in, or wondered what the heck he was doing. And the man got out of the car, it was on the front page of the paper, and climbed on top of the other driver's car and started beating on him and his wife through the sunroof. I mean, my friends, I was on the weekend, I happened to have the paper with me. And they're going like, oh my God, Glendale, these are the things that are happening? I mean, we are 291 rated, 291 out of 293 by the insurance companies. We used to be in the top for good driving, and the insurance companies were glad to give us good rates for living in the city and driving here. Now people just go like, oh yeah, we heard about Glendale, and that's it. I don't know what we can do about it. I have no idea. Maybe we ought to be taking away driver's license from some people, or offering driving instructions Maybe that's where the problem is, that enough people are not learning to drive properly. From the word go, I mean young people through seniors. So, and maybe it'll save some lives if we can just think of a solution. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. CR Legal Senior.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and staff, and of course the audience here and the audience that's watching. It was quite a privilege to be a part of tonight's council meeting. I've learned quite a bit, and I enjoyed getting to know each council member and your ability to work through problems and come up with solutions. I was quite impressed, especially with Councilman, your eloquent presentation and your response to the zoning problem that existed. I'm here to share my views once again, ironically, concerning the life on the Mississippi. It's a book by Mark Twain, and I thought it was quite intriguing, and it leads up to a point that I'm going to discuss next week. But since I only have 5 minutes, I'm going to get to the meat of the matter. At about page 265, I was reading this evening, and there's a section called Question of the Law. And one brother asked the other brother, what do you suppose would happen to someone that gave a drunk a loaded gun and didn't tell the drunk that the gun was loaded, and the drunk accidentally killed himself? Now, the mayor might know the answer to this question because you're a lawyer, but actually I didn't, and I had to ponder it for a moment. Then he followed up with another question, the next page, and he said, what would you call it if a young boy gave a drunk that he knew to be a drunk a match, and the drunk caught himself on fire and killed himself? Here again, I had to ponder and think, wow, would that be a crime? I know the mayor, you know the answer, but I had to think about it for a minute. And then I thought about some of the discussions that came before the council and how police officers have to analyze and decide what to do on the spot. So I want to follow up next week with another question that's similar to these two questions. Does someone have responsibility for knowingly doing something or setting a chain of events into place that results in someone being injured? That's sort of the gist of the matter. And should that person be held liable by the law? Kind of a simple question, but it started by me finishing Mark Twain, and I realized it had a connection to what was happening now in Glendale. And I want to revert back to what happened earlier, and that was to prayer about unity and about safety and some of the things that came out of the meeting that I heard that dealt with being concerned for your neighbors and looking out. So you're going to wonder, well, where is he leading with all this? Well, I'll tell you next week. But you probably can figure it out by the time I get here, because the real question is, are we responsible for our willful conduct that we know will result in someone being injured? And is it a crime? And what kind of crime is it? And certainly, if it leads to someone's death, is it a crime? And what kind of crime is it? And I learned one thing from this hearing about the building setbacks is you got to look at the law. What does the law says about it? What are the definitions of criminal conduct? For example, what's the definition of kidnapping? What is the definition? And once you find out the definition is, then you can look at the factual patterns and see which ones fit. Anyway, I have 30 seconds. I do want to say I appreciate being here, and I appreciated getting to know the council members. You learn a lot from how you deliberate. You learn a lot by those who can take tough questions and get tough answers. And I thank you for being a part of that.
Manufacturing and asportation of someone against his will, something like that, isn't it, Mr. Howard? Well, we're talking about the kidnapping definition.
Oh, well, if I may just speak,
Thank you.
I think it's the unlawful moving someone against their will without lawful authority. That's close. Thank you.
Herbert Milano. All right.
Good evening, Mayor Najarian, members of the City Council, City staff. My name is Herbert Milano. Well, I think today was really a very special session in many regards, particularly at the manner in which this City Council today handled that issue close to the Miradero and Grand Park. I think that was truly a commendable approach to it. I think that the Council was at its best tonight in that regard. And then to follow three really excellent speakers, it's a privilege to be here. My objective to come before you today is to highlight something that I heard on the radio today and on television tonight, having to do with the City of Bell and transparency. According to KPCC earlier today and then tonight on Channel 4 on NBC, they said that many people became how is it possible that in the City of Bell, they arrested 8 of the current and prior public officials? How come the public did not know about the salaries and compensation of, and the abuse of that salary and compensation in the City of Bell? The analysts that they brought forward stated that it was possibly due to the demographics of the city, primarily blue-collar, immigrant, generally people uninvolved in civic affairs. And then I started thinking about the effort that it took for me and a few others who truly understand the finances of the City of Glendale, other than the city staff, and what we went through. And how many people in Glendale truly understand the pay and compensation structures that are here in the City of Glendale. In 2005, I made a request to obtain the list of employees earning over $100,000, and I was denied that information by the City Attorney's Office. And the excuse that was given to me was that the city had filed an amicus brief on a legal case having to do with the Contra Costa Times against the City of Oakland. That newspaper was trying to find out what the salaries were for city employees, and they were denied by the City of Oakland. We had to wait until the Supreme Court of California gave a ruling that basically said that cities have to provide that information. And it was then that we got the shocker of our lives and finally found out about our own pay and compensation abuse, or what I would consider abuse. In this particular listing that we got, we had firefighters earning $250,000 a year, right here in Glendale. And that's not including the additional pay and benefits. What strikes me, though, as odd is that it appears that the burden to find the information is up to us, the public, the stakeholders. That we have to go out to the government and try to extract the information so that in our own way we can facilitate it to others. And I wondered, why not have it the other way around? Why not have the city initiate and promote the transparency and provide that information? You certainly have the means. One effective means would be through the city views. You publish it quarterly, you send out to every home, and I think it will be a good place to start giving the public a little bit more transparency. Here's what I'm suggesting. I'm suggesting to list the gross salaries of the top 20 employees, the top 20 highest paid employees of the City of Glendale, including the pension and all the benefits. Because I think that when people find out that once you add those pensions and benefits and health and everything else that goes along with that pay, we would truly be astonished as to what our costs really are for many of these top city employees. And I'm asking for at least 20. I've also been asking that the city provide some popular financial statements, meaningful, popular financial statements. That tells us the trends. How much is it costing the city to run its police department now, all inclusive of salaries and capital improvements and benefits, and to show a trend throughout the years so that we can get an assessment of how the city is doing in a way that is clear and concise so that everyone knows. How much is the fire department costing us? And so on for each one of the departments. I think we ought to know. Because what I find, for example, on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, I see a whole bunch of people in front of the Central Library trying to get in, and then rush over to the computers to try to make use of them. So I know that we have shortchanged our population, while in other parts of Glendale, when we look at the finances of the city, we have really put our money primarily on those areas that have to do with payroll and pensions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Daniel Novosartian.
Good evening, members of the City Council and City staff. My name is Daniel Novosartian. The only reason I came in today is to give a big thanks to Councilmember Draymond. Mr. Draymond, your comments and suggestions today during the earlier meeting regarding the shelter was both inspiring and reassuring. Specifically, when you mentioned for city staff to look at empirical fire and police data relating specifically to the calls for service during the openings and closings of shelters, I think that's great data to be looked at when deciding the urgency for a new local shelter to be built. In addition, however, I would urge you to maybe look into a different shelter operator, something more along the lines of the Casa de Amistad in Glendale than a traditional shelter. I think that might prove to be a good alternative, and it'll make it so not one city nonprofit social service agency will get the bulk of all the grant funding, and it'll give the shelter patrons a choice. So basically, that's why I came in. Lastly, I just wanted to ask for clarification on the difference between a consent item versus an action item, and what items fall under consent versus what items fall under action, and what are the distinctions between the two. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards. Comments from council?
Well, you may want to answer that.
Consent items are routine and may be acted on in one motion. Those wishing separate consideration,
They do so.
they do so.
Motion is proposed.
Yeah. Consent items are more routine. For example, results of bids for which you previously approved the specifications. General day-to-day operational items that are fairly routine. Generally of a less significant nature, as opposed to legislative actions like resolutions, ordinances, more in-depth actions on reports of staff. So it's a little technical and a little subjective. As we put the agenda together, we determine what's appropriate for consent and what's appropriate for action and discussion by the council. And of course, anything that a member of the audience or you feel on consent requires some discussion, it can be pulled off consent by one individual's request.
That's Mr. Mayor, members of the council, that's a key thing to remember. While there is a difference between consent and action items, and Mr. Starwood articulated correctly, they're generally repetitive and routine. Specifications for bids and the like, some things that are commonly adopted by motion, some resolutions as well. Clearly not legislative actions such as ordinances. But at any point in time, any member of the council or member of the audience can ask to have that pulled and separately considered.
Okay. Any other
New business?
any other comments? If not,
Consent, yeah, the consent item also include the minutes.
Who's the minutes? If there's no other comments, then we do have some new business.
Mr. Mayor, under new business, I move that the claims of Maria Kiza and Alexis Kiza and Geico Direct Insurance Company be comprised and resolved for the full and complete amounts of $12,000, $4,500, and $12,031.41 respectively, and the same is hereby approved and accepted, and the finance director is authorized to issue warrants in said sum payable to the claimants for delivery by the city attorney upon the execution of the settlement and release agreements.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Council members Raymond,
Yes.
Friedman, Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver, Mayor Najarian.
Yes. No other new business. Therefore, in the name of
In memory of Dick Soderlund.
we will adjourn this meeting upon motion, and second by Mr. Quintero. We are adjourned.
Thank you.